All right, here we are. Yes. Should be good. How we doing, Gabe? You here?
Yes, sir. Doing wonderful. Looking forward.
All right, excellent. Welcome to the show. So let me pop out the chat room so I can pay attention here. All right, so we've got a whole lot to cover. There's we're halfway through the movie, but we're almost halfway through the slides. So hopefully we can cram all the slides into 3 hours. All right. So let's just rock and roll. I think we're pretty good. Do you have any primer that you want to say before we jump off and start talking about Saturn and the other planets through the rest of the film?
Yes. I sent a last-minute graphic to your Telegram. I don't know if you care to pull it up, but I was just kind of getting a little sense of the synchronicities, knowing that Saturn was where we left off, and Saturn is where we're picking up. And this was not part of the plan, but in this lifestyle, these energies, they tend to make their appearance right on time. And sure enough, today is 8-15 is our date today.
Okay.
And 15 is the devil card.
Right. Yeah.
And as well, Saturn, the planet, is in Pisces, I'm pretty sure. I put it in that graphic. I put the planetary placements in the graphic. So 8 in the Thoth deck, 8 is the adjustment card, and 15 is the devil card. And I put the planetary placements in the center of that graphic. And I do believe where we left off on the last weave, we were looking at Jupiter, essentially, but also we're breaking across the equinox. We're kind of going backwards through the zodiac, as far as I could sense. But I just think it's very apropos that we're picking up with Saturn on the 15th, and this is signified by the 15 devil card. Yeah. So I just wanted to maybe slide that visual graphic in now. Because
yeah. Let me, whoops, 1 second. I got a lot of things open. Which one is it? Where did it go? Come on.
And I have a fun confession to kind of share with everybody. Somewhere along my journey, my devil card has disappeared in the clutter of my room. And I find that very mischievous for the only card in my tarot deck to go missing is the devil card. And wherever I end up finding it, I'm going to take that as a powerful augury. Wherever it is, it's probably a bookmarker somewhere in my many, many tomes.
Got it. Give me... I don't know what's going on here. I hit the thing to add the source, and it didn't work. Because I grabbed the picture, and I can show it to everybody, but I think I grabbed the wrong panel. Come on. Saturn Live Studio Live Streaming. Photo 610. For some reason, it doesn't want to pop up.
Yeah, one interesting pattern with the adjustment card, that used to be the justice card in the normal decks, but in the Thoth deck it's called the adjustment card. It is essentially Libra, which is an air sign. And then the devil card is Capricorn, which is earth sign. But a fun relationship that I always love to bring these things forward is that those are both cardinal signs, as Libra is the first segment of the zodiac after we broke through the fall equinox, and Capricorn is the first segment after the winter solstice. So they have that correspondence to each other, but they're also a 9-month birth cycle away from each other. If you go from Capricorn around the zodiac to Libra, you're looking at a 9-month relationship. Yep. And that's always something fun, that when they share either cardinal or mutable or fixed, And they have that 270-degree relationship, or you could, that's a glass half full, or you could see it as a 90-degree relationship if you do the smaller pi wedge.
So
that's always a birth cycle.
I got the picture up now.
Nice.
So you can start talking about what you see, and just be brief on it because we want to dive into the movie, of course.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, my man. So yeah, some of these elements, particularly from that devil card, will very likely be intrinsic to this character who is Saturn. And something that I think is kind of fun to point out with this card is the 15 man-nut cities. 15 man-nut cities are very correspondent to collectivist mentalities, people who enjoy having a lot of proximity to other people, and if you're a city person, your aura is extra fortified, and you're used to being in close quarters with other people, and that's your comfort zone is very concentrated, much like lead. You have very strong boundaries, and you have to because of the culture you live in. So you'll notice a bunch of dudes doing gymnastics in the ball sack of the phallus here. And I always make the joke that this is the 15 man-nut cities. But 15 adds up to a 6, and the 6 personality type in the Enneagram is the loyalists with the shadow of fear. And they do have that collectivist coming together priority. So yeah, those are just some of the things I wanted to throw on the table real quick.
Yeah, I get what you are saying there. That's very interesting. Okay, cool. All right, so let's collapse that. Now, oops. Now let's take us. Let's move us down into the corner and shrink us down, so that way we can let the show do its thing. All right, a little bit smaller. There we are. All right, and then okay, there we are. Okay, cool. So after they go and they show you the whole robot baby thing with Jupiter, they do a quick cut, right? And like, here's the deal, right? Like, they do little cuts where they jump back to the rogue gallery with the alchemist and the thief, where he is, like, we're seeing the scene, but he's like telling him what we're seeing in the scene, right? And I find it very interesting, the look on his face, right? Going from like character to character, right? There's a distinct difference between him as a person, you know, comparatively to everyone else, right? You know, at the, you know, because like, what can you say about him? It's just like, hi, you know, I'm the thief. My planet is the moon, and I used to act like a jackass for a living, right? You know, he wasn't part of like the world domination agenda. Then again, he also wasn't initiated yet, right? And I think that there's kind of a, I think that they're playing with the innocence of it, because of course, you know, he's the moon, but he's also the Fool card. And normally the Fool card is a sun representative, but not in this manner of storytelling. So what I want you to notice here is a little bit of the architecture, right? Like, this is kind of like your typical kind of like, I think it's like Gothic architecture, if you will, right? Like you know, like 1900s. 1800s kind of stone building type, right? Because when they show you the flip side of Cell over here, which is played by Valerie Jodorowsky, it's quite something. So here is showing, it opens up with her talking about how her clients are children, right? And so here she is basically as a mascot for like for a Christmas operation, right? She's dressed up as a clown. She's got midget Santa Clauses. There's a man dressed as an angel, which gives us a bit of that temperance or adjustment vibe, right? That's the adjustment card, right? Yeah, it gives us that vibe just with the color hue alone. She's wearing a Pope hat, and she's a clown, right? She's doing this clown thing, and she's also dressed like a pope, and that's where she has her Saturnian symbol on it as well. And you'll see her here, like Jupiter, is not using any kind of like alternate like way that we're familiar with, where like, you know, Venus and Mars are like upside down, right? So so this kicks off with her doing this whole like she's just being a clown, just making silly faces and making the children laugh. And there's this pan, and I found it interesting because I didn't catch it like the first time. You like, that's a bunch of fucking monks. Right? That's a bunch of fucking monks up there, and they're staring down at the children, watching the children being amused by the Saturnian clown. Right? Here's how she's outright dressed. There's her angel, her guardian angel person, the midgets playing Santa Claus, right? And then here's all the little Latino kids that are just having a blast by the whole thing, while these overseers of the clergy are looking down in this very kind of it's kind of like the projects, right? And it's got a lot of it's very square like it's a living situation. It's very Saturn cube like, which is a little bit different than the gatehouse, right? You know, this is more modern buildings, especially for the 1970s. So also, when I look at this outfit, this is straight up the entire fucking Troon movement. This is the whole fucking movement. Right? I mean, dear God. Like this is like there's the hairy legs, the bad skin, the absurd makeup to hide the ugliness. I'm sorry, people who make your pronouns difficult for us to talk to you. Right? So, now, I thought that this was fascinating, that there's deliberate lunar symbolism on this elephant. So here's Saturn riding this lunar steed. And I'm thinking to myself, and there's a black figure that's guiding this lunar steed. And I'm like, well, motherfucker, is this 1973 and he's telling us about the Saturn moon matrix? Really?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, man.
So she rides this elephant, and now look at the architecture. She goes to a fucking postmodern, brutalist, fucking industrial concrete structure, and with steel and things like that. And look at the design of this very real building.
Wow. Now,
this is what we call the House of the Net. This is Loki's net that traps you in the underworld, right? That's what's going on here. And Loki's net is designed just like the kind that sacred geometry, like the Tree of Life pattern. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm learning a whole lot of interesting things about some of this stuff where sacred geometry is not as sacred as I technically thought, but that's just the fun of going on this journey. And then wondering about all the tattoos you put on yourself in hindsight. But anyway.
Oh, man, ain't that something? Isn't that something? The tattoos in hindsight.
I'm doing fine, though. These tattoos are serving me just great. But anyway, So yeah, so she goes from like this very like neoclassical or gothic kind of like culture into all of this, and this is a quiet nod to later on with Pluto, because Pluto's shtick, you will find out, is architecture, right? And then there's going to be some very on the nose freaking dystopian shit to talk about when we get there. So when she gets here, now the clown with all the toys and the silliness, she gets surrounded by these old veterans. These old veterans with their officer hi-hats of sorts, right? Like this is her board of trustees for the company that sells the toys and stuff to the children, right? And so they all line up for her, military procession style. She's coming through. She's still holding on to the ball, I notice. So the ball, that she wouldn't just be holding on to the ball for nothing. That Saturn's got many moons, so I don't know if that is meant to be one of the moons of Saturn.
Yeah, you know, I believe it's 82 moons. It depends on what year you're researching from.
Right.
At one point, it was 82 moons. 82 is the sign of lead. 82 is the periodic number for lead. Mm-hmm. And you said her name is Valerie. This is his daughter, Valerie?
I think it's his wife.
Oh.
Because I think that they look like they're about the same age. Because, like, you see, like, we're going to see, like, she just looks like a little girl right now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and look how her fucking eyebrows are painted. The Saturn logo for eyebrows, and that makes it look like she's got two crosses.
Wow.
It's almost black metal. It's almost like a King Diamond, but in clownish colors, right?
Yes.
So these guys secure her with a privacy, with a privacy curtain. Complete gentlemen they are, and then she transforms into this iron bitch.
Right.
Because now she's going to show you behind the scenes, because there's nothing funny about what she's about to show you about her life.
Right.
And, this is some wild stuff, and to think about that from the terms of this being I think his wife.
So there's so much synchronicity packed in right here. I gotta unpack this carefully.
Go for it. I'm going to say also one more thing. This transformation, I think this was the original influence Matt Groening got for Mom and Momcore in Futurama. Go.
All right. So, her name is Valerie, the actress. It's his wife. So, the 6 card is the lover's card, and it depicts a marriage. In your standard Rider-Waite tarot or other tarots, even the Devil card has a married couple, a woman on one side and a man on the other. So they twin each other in a fascinating way. The Lover's card number 6 and number 15 that adds up to a 6 also has a wedding depicted on it. The 6 personality type on the Enneagram is a loyalist with the shadow of fear, and the remedial virtue is valor, or courage, or bravery. But that's one of the synonyms for the remedial virtue of the number 6. And so it's fascinating that it's his wife, and this is having that relationship of the marriage of both the Devils or the twin card, having that 6 correspondence. But in my system right now, I've put the prime numbers onto the Enneagram. And the prime number card for the Enneagram is number 13, is the 6th prime number. So I have many layers of the Enneagram synchronistically sussed out. And so the Death card also is I call it on the second layer of presentational immediacy. And so number 13 is also correspondent here, and that is the layer of guards around her. That she has these policemen dressed in black hats making a perimeter or a boundary. And so even the death card is relating to her iconography.
Sure.
So yeah, having courage around death is very important for those loyalists.
Yeah.
I always say that the university, when you go to university, you are finding a mascot that everybody is giving their loyalty to, and that's what's gonna be your paperwork that gives you credentials in the world. But a funny thing about all university, by the way, the the devil card in the Thoth deck, that is an Elihu goat. It's a specific type of goat, and Elihu is the name of the founder of Yale. Elihu Yale is the founder of Yale University, so that goat is like the alpha of all the universities.
And and that name is very much like it's like a mix of like Elohim and Alleluia.
Yeah, yes, and it's a character from the Book of Job, who is introduced into the Book of Job on chapter 322. And
of course.
Yeah. I think
it's
it's like chapter 32 verse 2 or some sequence of the 322 in that
chapter 3 verse 22
something like that.
Yeah.
So all of this, it's fascinating because it's totally fulfilling what I already know about the mathematical double layer of correspondences on the Enneagram. So I just wanted to say all that when you said Valerie, I was like, get out of town. Her name's Valerie. That's the remedial virtue of the loyalist with a shadow of fear.
Interesting. So I take this shot just to demonstrate. She does this walk through the factory, if you will, and it's just kind of a quiet. There's no direct explanation going on, and it's just showing you that the atmosphere in this workplace is nothing like how she sells a damn thing to children. Right, and so she's walking by. Just look at the look on her face, just like almost robotic, right? And these are like similar to Mars. These are toys for war because it's for children versus Mars, which is selling to adults, right? So this is priming the children, and Mars and Saturn, the times that they get along are scary.
Good point.
Then they cut back over here. Here's some serious officer class dressed gentlemen, right? This is her think tank at the company where she gets into the explanation because she's got this big 1973 supercomputer in the background, right? And she talks about how her client is the government. Her customers are children. Her client is the government, right? It's her job to sell to the children what the government wants, right? And she gets into technical data. The government says that we need to fabricate hatred for the people of Peru. So she's circling Peru on a map so she can go through the process of the propaganda apparatus for the general hatred of the Peruvian people. So there's a demonstration. They make little golems that are these are meant to be a racial stereotype of Peruvians to the people of the nation, because they never really tell you which nation in South America it is, right? So it technically could be any one of them, really. Probably one that borders Peru, right?
Right.
And I think Peru is where the team goes on before they get to the mountain. The mountain's not in Peru because it's on an island, but
right. And all those maps, they have the political map where it's all about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And that is totally Saturnian, to have mapped out boundaries.
Yeah. She made this line This is a line of laxatives her country that she's making, right? To make, to give the impression that just Peruvian like stuff just gives you the runs, right? It's there to just sabotage Peruvian food. And then I started to realize this later, okay? So she's running this comic book, and so there's some neat things to pick up about the comic book, right? So space superhero Captain, not Captain, Captain, right?
Uh-huh.
It's panic comic groups. There you see the moon. And you also notice that they bothered to put in the Comic Codes Authority, which was the official censors of the time. And I think it was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby made a joint effort to start making comics that weren't approved by the Comic Codes, and took the risk of running ones that weren't Comic Code authorized at a time where they were losing power but still thought they had authority. So I took a look at this right here, right? So for one thing, it's interesting because he's got the balance of yin-yang on his chest, right? So it's supposed to be selling him as being somebody who restores things to the balance, as this mighty hero man wearing this interesting halo kind of mask. There's Saturn in the background.
Yep.
That's Cell putting her mark on it. And he's got this incredible belt, which is like kind of like a Thor thing with the belt. It's the big premiere issue.
And it's got the that's the Jacqueline and the Boaz I Ching that from earlier.
You know
pillars.
what? I thought that was just a random panel lighting, but holy shit, you're right, it is.
That's a Jacqueline and a Boaz right there.
Yeah, it's actually backwards. It's the broken lines are first, so it's reaction on the left, and it's and then it's initiation on the right.
Yes.
Granted, we're looking at him. If it was on him,
right,
then it would be the other. Yeah, because it's kind of like looking in the mirror. So now, remember how this guy looks. And I'm just thinking, and like I realized it, especially when I was looking at this, because we're going to talk about Neptune later, and Neptune dresses up like a superhero. And then I realized how the interconnection between this and Neptune works. We'll explain that when we get to Neptune. All right. So this is the grossly offensive, like superhero against the current like horrible people next door that you have to fight indiscriminately. Oh, look at that. Yeah. And they also the markings are also on his feet. I just realized. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
That's so interesting. All right.
Yes. So a lot of people overlook the B to the J. It is everywhere. And I'm inclined to say, I'm not initiated, but I bet if you know which way is the inside of the temple and which side is the outside of the temple, it is important if the B comes first or the J comes first. Because if you're walking in, the B will be on one side, the J on the other. But if you're walking out of the temple, the J will be on the opposite side.
Right, okay.
So that's kind of a 50-50 guess for me, but a lot of people don't see it when they think about Bill Jefferson Clinton. His initials, his real birth name was Bill Jefferson Blythe, or William Jefferson Blythe, which even without the William, you got a J to the B and his middle to his last name. So either way you cut Bill Clinton. And sure enough, in the headlines, the big distraction while they were invading the Middle East, everybody was paying attention to the BJ.
Yeah, right.
To the BJ.
Right,
and what does a BJ do? It enters your gates. Even the word BJ is entering your gates. It's penetrative. And so, even now we got Joe Biden. We had...
right.
Yes, and then there was Boris Johnson.
Oh,
he's
right.
a BJ as well. And these are these were the Benjaminites and the Judites were the 2 tribes of the 12 who remained. And the other 10 tribes are dirty, sullied. They went wandering down the beach trail, eating clams and forbidden fruits. And they went through a mutation, so they are lesser than. Their genetics are no longer pure. So the B to the J are sanctified inside of the temple. And so these are just fascinating things. When you see the J to the B and it has to do with the threshold, just understand that there's some supremacy implicit to that.
All right. So I took this shot just because I thought this was a really good example of just like she's obviously being portrayed as a psychopath, right? But I talk about this a little bit because I said I was going to talk about this because we'll see when we get later on down the line and they start going through the shamanic journeying in the end of the film. That this is one of the things where, yes, you're getting the demonstration of her as a psychopath. Psychopaths fit this profile to a T. But this movie shows that, putting someone through this kind of journeying is something that a psychopath can't do. So this is about breaking what has been a psychopathic conditioning that we get imprinted with. I'm looking at her, right? And this outfit, it makes me think of those the high status Mormon women, those clan mother Mormons, because they got that hair like that. They all have that hair like that, right? Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of the Mormonist kind of just that crazy world that they live in. And so right here, she's looking into this room, and this is the only shot I could really take that I felt comfortable with at all, because all these children in this next scene are naked, and it's a 1970s art piece film, so they're naked, and they're all having their brains scanned while playing with the adult simulation of the toys, as they are being basically child soldiered, kind of MK Ultra'd into being the generation that's going to be the radicals involved in the fighting against the Peruvians. And then in the floor below, they got guys like this who's lost his legs in some war, and he's doing neural analytics. He's reading the brain scans of the child and taking down data, right?
Yes.
This is how Saturnian education operates when it's not allowed to have its relationship with Jupiter to also influx the expansion principle. All this is working on the disciplinary principle, the let's do a thing properly, let's get you like regimented and all that stuff, but it's all narrowly focused and forced into a terrible solution to a larger problem, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I just shot you a quick graphic that totally triggered in me that she's in the crowd of elders. It's kind of anode cathode to a famous scene in Metropolis.
Okay. Right.
And this is where she's coming into the sanctuary, and she has the orphan children of the labor class, and she's kind of going to make an appeal to the architect, to the main character.
Okay.
But yeah, that scene where she's in the crowd of elders, in a fascinating way, reminds me of, and I wonder how often I didn't think of this until now. I never would have thought to put Metropolis up against this. But, in those film directors' circles, they probably love to wink to each other with some anode cathode.
Right. Well,
symbols.
I mean, remember, they did give us a sex bot in this movie.
Right, you're totally right. We just got done with the sex bot, didn't we?
Yep. All right, give me 1 second here. I'm just gonna see if I can. Let me switch this over to. All right. Yeah. Here's the picture that Gabe sent me right here. All right. Yeah, so this is the scene from Metropolis that he's talking about with the woman with the children. But now, hold on. This scene, what were you saying? Is she protecting the children or feeding them to the beast?
Right now she's protecting them, but later on their whole city comes tumbling down around them. But that image right there reminded me very much of the image of Valerie with her her hairdo surrounded by elders.
Gotcha.
Yeah, right. She's like the provider for the meek, and also like who is the first ones to get on the boat is the women and the children, and the elderly are the first ones to go on the boat. So she's kind of the shepherdess. Yeah. Got it.
All right, here we go. So now we're all set with Cell and Saturn. So we're going to jump now into Uranus. Oh my God! The first few minutes of Uranus is so like unnerving and hysterical at the same time. It's a rarity to deal. So anyway, Uranus is like every extraordinarily eccentric Aquarius that you've ever freaking met, right? Like, so it's this dude here, right? He's he's laying out. He's got a leopard for a bed, for a bed pillow.
Yes.
There's, I think there's some sort of green vine or something like that he's kind of sleeping on, and then there's like a mannequin that he's got his feet propped up on. This symbolism is something. It's something, and I don't know enough about this level of Uranus mythos. He's got a bunch of weird stuff in this little, like, in this odd little room that he lives in, right? And so, now the thing with Uranus is that he's certainly not alone. This is his wife. And it took me a hot minute to figure out everything about what's going on. So there's I don't know if that mechanical horse is supposed to be a live horse, but it acts with its own life. But it acts like a mechanical. I mean, like, I think it's just like a mechanical horse that kind of has a magical life of its own, and it's part of their horseplay as lovers, right? So he gets waked up in incredibly like flirty, like free, wild spirit, like sexuality kind of way. She's holding a dead hand, and she's like running it across his like sternum, and then like patting his genitals with it, like, waking him up down below everything else, right? And like you're gonna see all this wild stuff, and then like I had to stop and ask, and I hadn't had a chance to think because I'm focusing on Uranus himself, because she doesn't matter after this scene. But who is she? And I was really like, wait a minute, Uranus's consort is Gaia.
Okay.
This crazy bitch is Mother Earth. This is the Earth. This is the Earth, like, seducing the sky. It's hysterical. It's so hysterical. All right. Prepared. Be prepared. Aha! Yeah. I am an amazing artist. I have dressed her up right and proper. Like, this is like, the couple that, like, like they're just disgusting around each other because they're just. That's it. That's the space they live in. This is their life, and they're whatever. Like, so this is the thing. She's, she's letting it all hang out, like, and she doesn't have like a flattering body at all, but she's the happiest fucking spirit in the whole of the fucking world, right? And, with her bluish green like hair, and just like, I know lots of witchy women this age, They're a lot less unnerving, but and she's got her high chair, like her high throne, like Gaia on the high throne, like juxtaposed to Uranus in the bathtub,
right?
Like this is, this scene's definitely framed up as a sideways kind of tarot card. This has a nice dimensional aspect that's trying to tell us something.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. So I just sent you a graphic from actually a weave from current events. Okay. I made this graphic and posted it on my community board on my YouTube today. I think we're definitely looking at now this is not Uranus per se. This is the card that is in Pisces. It is the Empress card. And the color scheme is a humdinger, where he's on the bed with the red, but surrounded by green. The color scheme is a perfect match.
All right.
In the part where she's up in the throne on this toilet, way up high, looking down.
Yeah.
Cassiopeia is an extremely northern-oriented queen sitting on a throne, looking down. And her consort is the Emperor card, is Cepheus or Cephas sometimes. But she is extremely high up north. And the color scheme is just perfect for the tarot card that I sent to you. And the reason that I was buzzing on this card today is because because the ISS, the International Space Station, has two characters who are trapped up there. They don't know if they're going to make it down, and they might run out of supplies, and they're still debating if they're going to go up and save them, and it might be months from now before they can rescue these people. Well, the woman in the ISS video, which is all fake, NASA bullshit, her hair is floating all crazy up in the zero gravity, allegedly.
Right. I'm here.
Yep. And that floating hair is corresponded to Medusa. She looks like Medusa up there.
Right.
And right now, there is we just came out of the Perseid meteor showers where the Algol star is literally the demon star, but there's a meteor shower right now. And just coterminal to Perseus is Cassiopeia, because Perseus has to negotiate the terms of the agreement before he rescues Andromeda. And he goes to Cepheus and Cassiopeia, and he asks for, he wants the kingdom, he wants the glory, and he wants the booty. And so before he rescues her, he goes and saves. But an interesting thing about the hair raising is that is it's a physiological response called horripilation, and it has other names, but this is the goose bumps when your hair is on your back of your neck stands up. And that also happens when you see really gross intimacy. When there's gross intimacy and you're like, oh, that creeps me out.
Yeah.
That is another form of goosebumps that really gets our emotions rise.
Yeah, and it's because of that initial waking up scene. I think that scene gives us a big tell about why he has, like, there's later on in the film they're gonna kind of show you these cut scenes of them going through these kind of like personal like horrors.
Yes.
And Uranus is, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen the film. But Uranus's one makes perfect sense to me in juxtaposition to this scene. So all right, so I'm going to take the picture off. Everybody's had a good look at it, and we're now going to move on from this one. All right, so I grabbed this shot so here's your Uranus dressed like a super hippie and everything else. This is her finally half she's in her lounging clothes now. And I just wanted to make sure I got all this random stuff that they got this naked girl picture on the wall, a couple of interesting things on the dresser, what looks like a taxidermy dog's head, a candle a candle holder over here, just these interesting little bits, and then just over here next to the headless dog, which maybe the headless dog is kind of getting at Rahu. There might be an allusion to the North Node here in that respect. And then you've got this interesting this is like a relief sticking out of the frame. It's made of wood or something, and it's Napoleon in blue.
Wow.
Right? And then here they are, and on top of her being Gaia, she's basically also Lilith, because this is their kid.
Uh-huh.
She's got the milk bottle for the snake. It's a cute gag, right? So this is their baby. This is their baby, and the Napoleon thing in the background is a big tell. This is Mother of the Dragon, right? Napoleon. The French people in general are mama's boys, which is why the Olympics was what it was, and it shouldn't have shocked anybody by the feminine liberalism that runs the fucking parliament in France. All right.
Totally.
Stop being so damn shocked. So anyway, yeah. So the mother and the serpent, Lilith, like these different things are being also evoked, and so as the on the inversion though, it's also they also play off look at this guy. He's a Loki. Right? He's a trickster. I mean, he's Uranus, right? Mm-hmm. So this is Loki and not Gaia, but Angrboda, the mother of monsters. Angrboda. And that's Jormungandr, the world serpent, right? This is raising the tyrants of the world, right?
Okay, yes. That'll be Medusa in Greek pantheon. She's under Mount Etna. She's the mother of all monsters.
Right,
yeah,
right, exactly,
cool.
Exactly. So then, we don't know why, but all of a sudden they look extremely proper. They look dapper as all hell, and we don't know why. And then now there's he does something for a living, right? All of a sudden he's in this adjacent room to his trash place. There's this fancy door, this fancy big double door.
Yeah.
That I looked at that flag. That flag doesn't exist, right? So this country is a fictitious South American country, right? Or Central American. You can see the big Central American map right there, like Mexico and down to Panama and stuff. Or actually, that's mostly Mexico, I think. But either way, that maybe that's a regional map. Maybe it's like a state. I don't know. Anyway, I couldn't find that map on the internet amongst different searches. So this is a very Aquarius, 11th house thing. He's working with numbers, right? This is interconnected networks and analytics, right? That's going to make sense with certain aspects of Uranus, especially as a newcomer, as ruler of Aquarius. So you're like, okay, what's all this about, right? Because you don't know exactly what numbers he's running. You just know he's doing a thing, and that he's got a report he needs to take care of. And so he's doing this. He's telecommunications in the air, telecommunication airwaves, Age of Aquarius. This is the waters being carried in the air, the emotions being carried in the air, right? He's taking in certain kinds of data from the media, and the media and the Medes and Medea. That's all related to Medusa, And you
Totally.
brought up the whole Medusa thing, and she knit her son a sweater. Wasn't that sweet?
A rainbow serpent.
We
It's
show
a rainbow
up here,
serpent.
and we find out that he is an advisor for the president of the country. And they show us this opulent office that he has, and it's a very Gilded Age like vibe going on here. And I looked at this and I said, Lovecraft, the King in Yellow.
Oh, damn.
And
Yeah.
I need to spend I need to get some more time wrapping my head around the King in Yellow, but the King in Yellow has been attributed to a lot of the principalities of suffering that we see in the modern state, right? There's something, it's almost like a vibe of like an avatar of Sauron is president of the country, and he has to work with subtlety in his plan, right? And for no reason, he's got these fucking beefcakes that are trying to look better than me as his guards, right?
Yeah, that King in Yellow is like it's a vast. What do they call that when LARP? It's a vast LARP. That it is rooted in the Lovecraft, but it's fascinating how many artists have picked it up and proliferated it far and wide. And I'm inclined to indicate this is a much bigger weave than we have time for. Much, much bigger weave. But I'm going to say that the proliferation of this symbol has a great amount to do with the tiny season theory. The belief that the millennial reign of Christ has already come and gone. And now we're coming to the end of a tiny season where Satan is going to be reigning supreme and the satanic planet is going exactly as planned. And the reason why the Yellow King is foreshadowing or proliferating the subconscious concept is because of saffron. Saffron, once upon a time I looked up what is the most expensive material per ounce on the planet, and it was a short list, one of which was antimatter, because it's so expensive just to produce a tiny little gram. But another thing comparative to antimatter was saffron, because it's a little season. And you have to pick every little stamen out of the flower by hand by only a tiny window of availability. And then so you only have a little amount of time, so you need maximum manpower to go and get this tiny season. And then it goes for hundreds of dollars for just a couple stems. And saffron
so you're talking about season as in the play on words of seasoning for cooking.
Bada boom.
Okay. So Christ comes with a pinch of salt.
Bada boom, bro. Yes. And so also a fascinating thing about saffron is it is one of the key mysteries of the Eleusinian schools. And so you'll notice that this is a Yellow King of a sort, this Fool card.
Yeah.
But it's also proliferated by the Simpsons, who are saffron-colored skin. And it's also seeded in every emoji you've ever used. We are identifying with the saffron yellow of the simulation that simulates your emotions that the Simpsons have proliferated as well. So like I said, this is a huge weave, but I just wanted to put some of the breadcrumbs that lead to the Eleusinian mystery of mysteries.
Yeah. And I've always said that, you have to think, the Simpsons are either the Sim sons or the Simp sons, and we all know what a simp is, and we all know this short form for simulation, right?
Yeah, buddy.
So let's all right, let's move down to the next frame right here. So they go out for a walk in the park, and all the beefcakes are here as their personal guard. They all got miniguns, and it's like a big, like they got a big ascending spiral staircase. Like it looks like a wedding cake, right? It's like there was no like wedding or anything like that going on, but like this just comes about framed up, right? And there's this interesting moment that happens with Uranus. He in a frustration because they're under like a birdhouse, right? Like there's this big like it's like all the president's messenger pigeons or something, and this is where they go to stop, and they're trying to enjoy eating the cake and enjoying their time, and the birds are shitting on the plates and the food and things like that, and it's pissing him off. And so he does this frustrated little thing. He sticks his fingers in the cake and he walks up it. And then he takes the bride piece, and in straight Uranic fashion, he pulls a tower card and crashes her into the base of the cake, saying, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." So
Totally.
he does this Uranic simulation of the tower card with this cake that I thought was nice, and it would seem to express perhaps a resentment for the woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though the kind of madness that they operate on would be kind of like it looked like, you know, you'd say like, well, that makes sense. They're both super eccentrics or whatever, but he's having an issue. So before we move on from this, what do you want to comment here, especially because we, you know, at least the tower card, you know?
Yes. So the tower card, it's fascinating. I always associated it to Pegasus because Pegasus has, if you study John McHugh, he has laid out how the Pegasus square represents all things written down. That it's the name of it in Mesopotamian stellar punning is both the Garden of Eden, but it's also the tablet of all literacy at large. However, I've gotten into the fine minutia in completely parallel. The same time of year that Pegasus is born is the tower, the Horologium Tower. And this is kind of a small, underestimated constellation just south of Pegasus directly. So it's the same time of year, but it's predominantly in the southern hemisphere, if you will. But I think that, again, on the Empress card, there is a swan. And so Pegasus, the Grus, which is a goose, and the swan are all in Aquarius, but they happen at the exact same time when this is the cut point of decapitating Medusa, and her body is left down there, even though her head progresses 4 months in the zodiac. But yeah, I think that cake is correspondent to this swan right here.
Okay.
And so the defiling of the feminine in that moment is signified in Aquarius, where the Aquariid constellation or the Aquariid meteor showers pop off every year. So yeah, it's right there also with the Tower card. So yeah, I just thought I would mention that he's kind of signifying this swan/goose. And Carl Jung talks about this symbol also. He calls it the pelican, and it actually symbolizes to him a percolator, an alchemical percolation device. And Hero of Alexandria had a cup or a percolator that was it was a gimmick. There was a trigger on it where you could pour water in 1 second, but then you take your finger off the valve, and then you pour it again, and it comes out as wine. So yeah, we're at a party, and he's doing party tricks and he's turning water into wine. So yeah, all of that is signified by the goose and the goose and the percolator.
Gotcha. Yeah. The waterfowls typically associate with Cygnus, right?
Yeah.
And Cygnus. Cygnus swims upon the Milky Way. Cygnus's flight pattern goes with the Milky Way in correspondence as we orbit.
I made that graphic that I showed you earlier about the goosebumps.
Yeah.
Which is relates actually to the porcupine. Medusa is a echidna, half snake, half human. The porcupine is the echidna. And I made that graphic this morning, and then on my walk today, 23 geese did a dive bomb towards me. They did an S curve and came over me, and I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was like 23 geese. All right, it was a powerful augur.
Sounds like Lady Frigga has your attention. So we're all set with the Uranus profile now.
Yeah, buddy.
So this is Axon. Axon is Neptune, right? And I thought it was very interesting. His bit is that he's the chief of police, right? So he's the enforcer. They went with Neptune as this enforcer character, which I thought was very interesting. But the way they played him off made perfect sense, as he is going to be that Poseidonic embodiment, especially with the horse. Like, he absolutely has a horse spirit that he conveys with his performance. And I just think it's interesting that his name is just like Exxon, the oil company. And we all know how the oil companies have had their way using the U.S. military and the world military to set prices for a certain manner for a long time.
Great point.
The first scene they show you of Neptune's job is that here he is at a training facility, and you find out that he initiates people into his castrata army. He is the chief of the castrata. Right? So all these young men, at least age 16 years old, are of 1,000 men who have gone through this procedure where they get their balls chopped off so they can enter the police academy. And Axon has this huge prop effing machine gun after he rides in on a horse. And it's this whole big to-do, and he's dressed like a horse. Like, here he is on his horse. These men are all here to watch him castrate this young man. Everybody's here because they're welcoming him into the ranks. Neptune, as you can see, is using the upside-down Neptune logo. Right? So, like this ridiculous altar completely set up for this process. He's splayed out like the Vitruvian Man in Spread Eagle. He's got a black cap over his junk that will not be touched. He's about to get into it. So he's got this chin piece on, which I like, other than I suppose because he's Poseidon. He's got the cool mohawk that makes him look like he has a horse's mane. But in general, his look, plus he's got this helmet, is that he's kind of like Captain. He's got the Captain energy, right? The kids get indoctrinated by Saturn, and then they get into this guy. And they are, and then they've subconsciously already been predetermined because they want to be like their superhero. This guy is like their superhero. And that's all set up by the state, right? Captain America. Right? And and with this whole I don't show nothing. Relax, everybody. But I want to. The only reason why I even got this shot, so you saw this clear picture that even though he's going into this very bravado field, like this castration is also being recognized as an effeminization process, as he's got these pink roses in his hair, right? You know, going into that territory of being less of a man to do this kind of manly thing. The price you pay for joining the death cult we know as the police, right? This is the symbolic castration. Look at cops. You know, so many cops are just like, they allow you to be a cop, and you're like, he's fucking obese, right? You know, like you don't have to be military grade people to be cops. They like their military grade people, but you can eventually let yourself go if you're proficient at throwing your authority around. Okay, let's get off this disturbing nonsense, right? So, you know, here he is. That's him there. He's standing up, like, and he's got his arm out. So, like, he just had his nuts cut off, and now he's standing up, and everybody's happy. Like, he himself is also happy that he wanted to be here. He wanted this to happen to him, and now everybody's coming up to give the two of them a big hug. It's like, welcome to our fucking cult.
Right.
And then here's the helmet, and you can see how his horse mane pans out. And now he's taking the young man to hang up his balls in his collection. Yes, those are all that's all those men's balls. That is his 1,000th man. And then they go through this little process. They've got this triangular geometric device, some sort of magical tuning apparatus for what they're getting into, and this is like their handbook, like the cops' handbook. So like they read this religiously, like it's the fucking Gospels, right?
Dude,
and
yeah.
they do mantras and attestations from this little book. This little book is the book of their cult.
Can you make me big? This is uncanny. This is getting really uncanny now.
Yeah. All right.
The color scheme is just flawless. So the Hangman card is absolutely the scheme of this entire reality. And I hope that's coming through in the light. But the colors are impeccable. And if you have your own Hangman card, or you look it up real close, even the rack on the wall with all the testes and jars is hailing to a tile pattern that is in the fine minutia of this card. Yeah, you can see it. It's coming through.
I mean, yeah, we can see it. I mean, I'll also say this room kind of also in a sick way implies the 10 of Cups.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that is kind of sick. That is sick. Even the book, the fact that all the kids have little books, you can see there's like these lines here are very much like a book. But I have a great amount to say about this card. If anybody wants to look up Stanford University's the map of the entire campus. This is the facade on the front of the campus, and in the garden through that facade, when you walk through the campus, there's a gigantic ankh in the garden inside.
Which campus is this?
What's that?
Which campus?
Stanford University.
Oh, dear God, Stanford. Okay.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. But this also, in my research, this hails Harry Houdini. Harry Houdini would tell the participants, he would tell the audience to try to hold your breath as long as I have to, while I dip myself upside down into a submersion chamber. And then, of course, the audience can't hold their breath that long, so they're totally amazed at how long he's in there breathing. Of course, he's cheating 1,000 different ways as a magician, but his whole forte was strength. And so I see a lot of Harry Houdini going on here, but guess what? This is a trip, y'all. This is a super crazy trip. Castration causes an incredible lung capacity in the man. It creates an incredible lung capacity. And what is really gross is between the fine lines, the secret to his success might have been the fact that he was castrated. But also think about Neptune. We're in the aquatic, in the water elements, and they're chopping the balls off all these children. I'm inclined to say that I don't know if I want to be mystical or if I want to be literal about this, but let's just think about underwater cities.
Okay.
And the only way to access an underwater city would be to have an incredible lung capacity. And I just want to throw that into the ethers. It doesn't land on anything in particular, but we are dealing with Neptune and castrati children.
Right.
An incredible threshold for pain. But also they can sing really high pitch. They have an incredible high pitch, value. And Michael Jackson had an incredible high pitched voice. And he also had an incredible lung capacity. And he might have been one of the most proliferated. I call him MK Ultra Jackson. Michael Jackson is MK Ultra Jackson.
Right,
and all they had to do was broadcast his high-pitched voice, and the message is coming through on some level that he was chemically castrated.
Right. And of course, that was a major... There was a major weird fascination about matters with MJ in the public, because when I remember... it was a major thing in the media that, so many people just subjected to it, was the whole bit where after Michael was like under investigation, and then he talked about how, oh man, they did this inappropriate search on me. They looked in my pants, and I think he said like, oh, they touched my penis or whatever, so he went off and he put through, and he told you that he went through this graphic kind of thing, that it was this dehumanizing kind of thing, and it was very weird the way the reactions were, and starting to realize that there was that influence of lawfare in the media, and somebody, for whatever petty reason, was trying to really say things were a certain way instead of just letting the facts lie where they may, and let the courts operate under their scientific procedures of determining justice.
Right.
Yeah.
One more detail that I guess I should say. Harry Houdini fits almost any hangman card in any deck. And it does have, he had a lot to do with Australia. He flew the first plane down in Australia. But also, if you look closely, there's an H in the background.
Okay. His
arms make something of an A. And then his legs are like a R, and then you turn him up and he's a Y. So there's a HARRY in this card only.
Okay.
So the Thoth deck is really bringing forward Harry Houdini. In other tarot hangmen, you'll see he has a crown of light. Mm-hmm. Well, Harry Houdini was buried on letters from his mother. His corpse was buried on a pile of letters from his mother. And that's the crown of yellow around most other hangman cards.
Right. And also remember that the way we draw the number 4 is also when he's upside down like that, the leg at that angle is that angled 4.
Yeah, buddy.
And the 4 is drawn that way because it has a correspondence to right angles to the cube.
Totally.
Right. So that's why the 4 looks like that. All right, so let's shrink us down so I can let you see the next slide, because I took quite a few to go rapid succession, because I really wanted to show the scenes from the riot. So we're going to get to see how this guy does things. So there's just a little moment. This is training. Here he is, like all dressed up like military style, and he is, and he's very like, it's very Captain America, and just being in that military overhype, persona.
Yep. Hey, I'm gonna hit the head, but I'm listening.
Okay. All right. So while you're hitting the head, know that I'm hoping you knew a thing or two about the symbolism of this picture. Because this picture is showing you this shot of the crowd in question that is going to be attacked by Axon's men. And so this is some sort of protest that represents this guy who is a picture strapped to the forehead of this particular protester, this very bright orange shirt that's got a yellow and red graphic on the shirt. And he's got his hands up in this in that antennaed right angle, which we talked about that in part 1 because it shows up in one of the tarot images on the wall, and that the image also pops up in like one other place, and here it is here with this gentleman, and the idea is that they're saying that they're peaceful. You've got all sorts of guys, you know, they got peace signs. They're all young people. Most of them seem like they're adults, but there's at least one girl who seems like she's on the young side. Okay, cool, you're back. So, real quick, do you have any idea what the picture is on that guy's forehead? And is there anything you could draw of this symbolism before we move on? Because this was such a quick moment, and I want to know if you got something on it, because I couldn't tell what I was looking at.
Yeah, man, this is kind of creepy.
Okay.
So, again with the saffron yellow, and the Eleusinian Mysteries was a parade or a long line of people, a progression. It was a progression, and he's wearing the saffron yellow color. And the interesting thing about the Eleusinian Mysteries is they had only the fine, high language of Greek. You could not speak common Greek. You had to, while you were in the procession, you only could speak the royal form of the language. And I think that saint, the picture of the saint that the kid has on his head, I think that's Saint Gabriel from Russia. Okay. And everybody should look up and research Saint Gabriel from Russia. He had a very fascinating activist's life. And at one time, when a group of people were gathering together to worship, I think it was Stalin. I might be wrong, might not have been Stalin, but they had a poster of Stalin up in the middle of a piazza. He went up in the church where the tapestry, giant tapestry, and he doused it with gasoline and set it on fire. And I think that is Saint Gabriel. And what is really crazy is this Fool card has hit me in a very personal way in my initiatory path.
Okay.
This kind of almost has my address from my first capoeira class I ever took. And this is the first capoeira kick that ever kicked me in my head. I lived on Oxbow, and the glyph on here is ox or bull. An ox or a bull is what the translation is. And that was my address when I got kicked in the head by this exact maneuver. Yeah. So now we're watching this movie, and I'm seeing Saint Gabriel being held up by a character who is in this posture right here. So yes, so many times I find myself to be the fool over and over.
All right.
But one thing about the fact that the Eleusinian parade had only they were very sensitive about language. The same thing is happening today with the kids. They have politically correct language is the only language you can speak if you're going to join the parade. And so there is an ultra sensitivity to politically incorrect speech, even with the kids today. And then here comes the muscle, and they're going to go blow them the fuck up for being so fucking sensitive.
Yeah. These are just mostly peaceful protesters, right? Yeah. Okay, so here, like, it's just, this is the demonstration that the cops attacked first. They set something up to explode, and so this kind of sets it off. And then I took this shot because Jodorowsky goes into artistic expression. We're going to see scenes of violence being simulated with things like fruit and stuff. It's going to be very clever, going to get the point across, and your imagination will do the work, but you're going to see nothing wrong. And I could have taken so many pictures just because they were cool shots. But there's this blue smoke, right? And so I think that blue smoke was there for Jodorowsky to say, this destruction, the police are responsible for this destruction. The blue bloods are making this happen. This is a blue flame, right? So that's what I think is happening with why he chose this. So then here's Axon. He's leading the men into the fog of war, right? This is what they all signed up for, right? So here, they're taking buckets of it's probably blood, right? It's probably like pig's blood or something like that, and they're throwing the buckets on them, and then they are acting like they got attacked, and they fall over dead and injured, right? Because this is they're doing a reenactment of a police massacre, right? And so the throwing of the blood on them, it's like playing tag, where you agree to play the game, right? Which is also kind of it's a deep socio-psychological tell at the same time, right? So here it is, they're just being sprayed down with a hose of blood, and like they're just laying there. They're not like they're playing dead. There's nobody's wound. There's a makeup artist didn't come in and paint bullet holes, and like they're just covered in a liquid that looks like blood to show that they've been slaughtered, right? This lady is having a red ribbon pulled out from under a prop bulge in her chest to show a vicious evisceration of her insides by one of these cops. A dove of peace comes out of her wound, and then he grabs it and kills it. This is the one scene, it's so fast, where I saw Axon do anything. I was almost going to say that Axon doesn't participate in the violence, but then he rips this person's head off, and then this prop skull kind of pops up where the head was ripped off, and he just turns and he's just looking off, and I don't know, like Hannibal Lecter, kind of like just killing somebody like it's slaughtering breakfast, right? So just to show you that Axon gets his hands dirty, he's not immune from it, and then this is the offering to Neptune, right? This is the dead and the body part. I don't know if those body parts are meant to represent possible losses of his men, and then he's got his little book, and he wears high heels. I notice. Look at that. He's in high heels. And so he's on his knees, for whatever ceremony at the end of a massacre he does this kind of thing for. And then this fog in the background kind of comes over them, and then we're going to move into Pluto. So, before I wrap up with Neptune, what do you got?
I would definitely invoke this death card for this scene here with the pile of bodies, and he's down on one knee. The death card has an unnaturally bent knee, kind of contorted out, and obviously he's in surrounded by dead bodies.
Yeah.
But there's also going to be some strong Scorpio correspondence, which is a water sign. So it's also pretty consistent with the fact that he's Neptune. The kneeling aspect, this card has that jacked out knee. It looks agonizing, but one thing I see that, for me, it also signifies the straight razor. And the straight razor and I have a lot of history. So, yeah, that pops out to me personally in a fun way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just thought I would weave that in because of the bodies piled up.
Yeah. A little bit of interesting feedback in the chat room. Shout out to a long fan of the channel, Violence is Life. So the crowd will be attacked by Exxon's men. He's having a conversation that's interesting. PK, what is the term for High Greek? Not coin or Kohen, common, whatever. Remove me of the crisis actors back when the deep state was trying to start war with Syria. Right, okay, yeah, he's making very good correlate. Right, yes,
Big
exactly,
time.
Violence. This movie is letting you know a thing or two, and it's interesting where Jodorowsky takes it, and we'll talk about that. So I think the march from Athens to Eleusis, this is PK, I think the march from Athens to Eleusia and back may have actually been the first marathons. 13-ish miles there and back. Very cool. Thank you, PK. All right.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. So, all right.
And that's the death card is 13. So that's pretty potent.
Yeah, and then from this death scene, most appropriate with the death card, we now transition to the ultimate Plutarch. So here's Pluto. So Pluto, he sits, I find it interesting that he's got this very sun-like thing, this gold disc behind his head for the start of it. And, I don't want to say that it's the sun, but it's definitely the gold is in line, because Pluto's not just death and not just mysteries and secrets. He's also wealth, because often those mysteries and secrets are hidden treasure. Right? And so there's an aspect of that gets demonstrated first. So he's an architecture guy. This is his house. He lives in this crazy postmodern house. Kind of interesting with its forms. And they don't have an explanation, but he's got these little girls that are I don't know, 10 or something. They're all dressed up like ultra classic, 19, Steamboat Willie era Mickey Mouse, right? Or Minnie Mouse, right? His girlfriend. And these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's I think there's 8 of them, and then he's 9. And he's got this cat-like quality. They play a cat and mouse game in his unique home. I liked this shot showing the framework of these interesting forms that he's playing with. I like the home, even though it's got the postmodern kind of blankness that I fucking despise, it does have interesting forms and curvature, so it's not entirely masculine, because to have the curved lines, is something that is a mark that I think is good in architecture to see. So anyway, but my point is he's playing hide and seek with all these little girls, and the movie doesn't go anywhere with this, but your mind goes somewhere, because without any context, it's all innocent, but it's all inappropriate despite it being innocent, right?
Totally.
Just like the way Michael Jackson lived.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, great point, man. Oh, wow, great point.
Now, get this. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Well, that opening scene, so this card does not generally signify Pluto, generally. However, I have done some wild alchemical work with the Enneagram. The 9th prime number, 9 is sloth. And planetarily speaking, Pluto is the most slothful of them all, because it has the widest orbit. And so Pluto is the number 9 planetary personality type, but 23 is the 9th prime number. And so I've reduced 23 down to a 5, and it has elevated the Hierophant to a high priority. Okay. And that opening scene where he has the backdrop of that circle is very much related to this Hierophant here. And then even the little kids around him with their coily tails are also kind of, there's a cow's tail here.
Okay.
But in this card also, there's some fascinating geometry components. And so the fact that his house has interesting architecture is very fascinating to me. And then the fact that he's playing hide and seek, that's what Pluto does to astronomers. You can see it once, then you can't. And then for a while they demoted it, so it wasn't even a planet, and now it's back on as a planet.
Right. Yeah. Because Pluto is also like Batman, right? It's just like they go into the dark places that you don't want to go and deal with the shit, right? It's just like I got a Scorpio ascendant, right? I get it.
Nice.
So
this is also card number 18 is the moon card.
Yeah.
But 1 + 8 gives you a 9, and this is also a bat. There's a very subtle bat. If these are the two ears of the bat, its mouth is grabbing a roach. It's eating an insect. But this would signify the bat signal, which is a high beam or a bat signal. It's like a light in the sky.
Yeah. And in the original Tim Burton Batman film, the bat wing was shaped like the bat logo, and then there's that epic scene after he dumps the balloons where he flies in front of the moon and makes the bat logo. I remember as a kid seeing that scene in the theaters and being like, "Wah!" like everybody else. It was such a cool moment.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then one cool thing about the bat signal is the beam is telling you its location. You can do geometry to find the building that it's coming from. And this is a wild aspect, but this is also signifying R2-D2. R2-D2 is like an upside-down moon card.
Okay,
right. The orb on his head is the orb of Urania, who is the ninth muse from the Symposium. So 1 + 8 = 9. The ninth muse in the Symposium is Urania. And so, geometry is her forte.
Okay.
Astrology and geometry. And so, the orb of Urania is also right here with the bat signal and the R2-D2 of it all.
Excellent. So, now, this scene, I picked up. This was so fast, so like my eye just caught it. So ooh, I'm good. Look at the very far right of this picture. Look at the blonde. That is the same blonde that's getting screwed by the guard in the beginning of the movie.
What?
She works for Pluto.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's that correlation. She doesn't do anything in this scene other than be present as part of his crew. But also I thought it was interesting that he is wearing this crazy visored cap thing. It's very postmodern fashion looking to me. And I suppose maybe it reflects the nature of Pluto being a cold white orb. And then you've got this kid on crutches, which made me think 5 of Pentacles.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, because the subject matter going forward here is about charity, right?
Yeah.
And he's complaining about the charity because the charity lost him money. Right? He didn't like it, even though he built a really high quality human productive way of life, like housing system, right? That was giving everybody a chance to be healthy, get a good education, safe playgrounds, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So he walks through the courtyard of the building, and he goes to the athletic facility of this place. And this is an entire boardroom of people from, I guess, the town or whatever, and he's got to sell them on a new building that's going to revolutionize the way people live. So he's going to do a whole, like David Copperfield kind of, he's going to do a magic act, as an infomercial to sell the new living complex that he wants, because he wants to change the mind of the world to not want a home, but just to have a shelter, right? To reduce their thinking to shelter adequacy instead of wanting to have a place that you can really, live in with your stuff, right?
Yes.
And so he brings out, while he's whining and dining the people, this is his building. This is his building design. It's a slot. It's a slot of coffins in a grid work. It's just a living coffin. Then he puts on this whole magic show. He gets a tranny with the red wings over here. This is a guy. And there's a woman over here. She's topless under this. And here he is. He's got a baton. He's got his magic wand, his orchestra stick. There's fanfare music. He's making a whole fucking production of the thing, right? The chick takes off her thing. They're smacking her in the ass. Hey, get in there, right? And so she crawls into the crawl space entrance for her dwelling, for her shelter, and then here she is, all snug as a bug, right, in her fucking coffin that they don't call a coffin, and it's got there's a crank on it to turn it on its back so you can lay down. You get in it standing up, and then you crank it to lay it down, right? That's it. You don't even have a room. And then this is the poster for it. Be a free man without a family, without a house. City of free. You're talking about the 15-minute cities?
Yeah. Yep.
There's your 15-minute city, folks. There it is.
Yes.
You know what? You look. This is the Matrix. This is the first Blade movie. The vampires in the first Blade movie were running a fucking warehouse with a blood bank depository of people in hypersleep, so on and so. We've seen this motif. So this was postmodernism was coming into the fray. This movie was showing you, hey, the planets are going to give you all this postmodernism. Right. Because of your unconscious way of life, right? It's that first third of the movie, all that madness before you get to the Wizard's Tower, all of that is saying these are the fucking consequences for those who are going to live like that. Right?
Yeah,
that's
buddy.
what all of this represents. Right? That's the and now we finally get to the end of the Rogues Gallery, so there wasn't much to show, so I just skipped ahead to a nice total shot, and let's not hold that too long because I forgot to do some editing. Okay, so that's the whole crew right there, and okay, so hold on a second. I'm gonna be clever. All right. So let's. I just wanted to see if there was any significance. So we know that Jodorowsky's the son, right? And so just to look at the order to see how it matters. So on the left we got Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus. Then on the right side it's you've got Mercury, the Moon, Venus, Mars, Neptune. So that's how they're arranged, right? So that's just a good profile of seeing all of them. I think it's wild. Aries has that Carmen Sandiego look that I really fucking respect. Very dapper crew. All right. So he goes through his little presentation. He shows you the periodic table of elements. I grabbed this picture because I don't know if this exists, if this was just made for the movie. This was the cover in the film. He shows this as the cover of an ancient Rosicrucian manuscript that has the holy mountain that he believes is the correct holy mountain. that will lead you to the Immortals, who are the 9 members of the High Council of Illuminati, effective. Like, they don't say all that shit in the movie, but in the hindsight of 2024 knowledge, it's kind of like that's the hint. It's like, let's overthrow the people that have made the world this way, and they know very well this way that the world is. Right? Because they're fucking making the world that way. So, do you, before I go to the next shot, anything you want to say about this? Do you happen to know what this is?
Well, definitely the Order of the Rosy Cross and the Rosicrucians come to mind, which have an even deeper root in the they're called the Fama Fraternitas. Fraternitas. That's it. Fama Fraternitas is the fraternal family. But the word Fama, it means family, but it is also a Greek deity, goddess of rumors. And she is called she who increases information. So that is to say, she embellishes it, or she makes the rumors magnify. And so Fema, you can spell her name a couple different ways. And Fema is very correspondent to her. So Fema is kind of carrying the torch for that Rosicrucian Rosy Cross. But recently, the fellas and I have discovered a fascinating secret to the Ro. So the Rosicrucians, the Ro secret, the secret of the Ro.
Okay.
And that is, and this is a big old honkin' weave, but I'll just kind of I'll tease it out a little. The Greeks had future tense verbs, and we have been castrated from having future tense verbs. The closest you can get to making your future tense verbs is bottlenecked with 2 or 3 different qualifiers: will, shout, and wilt. Will, shall, and wilt. And those 3 qualifiers to a future tense verbs are in the thelemic do what thou wilt, shall, be the whole of the law, law under will under the will, with something will. They have all 3 of the future tense qualifiers in their maxims.
Okay.
And I do believe that there was a time when our language was not centered on the noun. Babylon mentality is when your belongings own you and control your life. There was a time when we were much more action-oriented, much like the Native Americans, much like the Romas. And you could pack up everything that you need in one day and move on into action. And so Babylon mentality has moved us into the preeminence around the noun. But once upon a time, we were more centered on the future tense verb. And that is, in my Enneagram, that has a great amount to do with the Rho. In Greek, the letter Rho, it looks like a P, but it's number 19 in the alphabet, and the 19 is the 8th prime letter. And so control is the aspect of number 8. A lot of people talk about the Ahrimanic energies. And that is also parallel to what I'm saying. Babylon mentality is very Ahrimanic, where your possessions own you.
Yeah,
but I think there's a mental switch that we can all move into to be more willful with our life. And that is to have the Ro, to have the or, to have the will, to turn your song on the drop of a dime. So yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot, but it's all there.
All right. That sounds good. So he makes this he makes this determination about this island with a mountain on it. That's going to be the holy mountain they're going to pursue. From what this book says, there's a great table with the Enneagram on it, and the 9 immortals sit at the head of this table, which is a very Knights of the Round kind of thing. And the 10 of them are going to go to the holy mountain to take care of the 9 immortals. And they're going to handle that 10 versus 9 situation towards the end, and we'll talk about that because I think it's very interesting and very cool the way they handle it. So then the next thing they do is they go into this room, this eye room, and there's a fire pit. in the middle of this room in the iris, and they're all going to sit around this eye, and their likenesses that we see throughout the introduction to the Rogues Gallery, those are going to be burnt in effigy in here. And before they do that, they're going to burn their money. Right? So in this scene, they have a conversation about how they're going to initiate their quest for the Holy Mountain, and they have to offer their money to the fire, and then they're offering their persona to the fire, because they're going to go through, as a group, a collectivist concept. You've got the sun opposed to the moon over here, so this is kind of expressing a full moon, that this offering is being made. And then you've got Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, Uranus. Uranus, and then over here Jupiter, Venus, Mars, and that's obviously Pluto. Okay, so the thief does what the thief does. For some strange reason, he is compelled to take a couple of these monies and slip it right in his slick pocket. For whatever reason. He's the only guy that didn't bring any money. Right? Like, he didn't have any money. All these other people or whatever, he's just initiated, right? And for some reason, he took a buck or two. And then there's this scene where he hops up on the table to push a few off, and the alchemist gets mad at him because he caught him stealing, and he pulls out the $2, and it was some sort of a just kidding kind of moment, and then everybody just laughed, like no big deal, and he threw the two bucks he stole in the fire, and all was forgiven. So it was just kind of a moment. You can see everybody smiling too, right? So it's just kind of a thing where he's being cute because he's the only guy there who doesn't have any wealth. So then here's their likenesses being burnt in effigy. They're just kind of stuck in there like fire sticks. And then they head off on their journey, and they all look like Gandalf. So I thought this was kind of neat how they all look like Gandalf. They're all dressed identical. Because from this point forward, they start going into that process of becoming identical. Becoming, one cohesive unit. And this is the first time he's left the tower. And then all of a sudden, just her, none of the other girls, her and her chimp show up. And she's following the moon. She's following the thief. So she's following her feminine cycle because she's following the moon. That's the first takeaway. The symbolism of the chimp, is still, there's so many thoughts, is it representing her primate mind, or her masculine side, perhaps, or whatever. But she goes through a process where she literally follows him to the ends of the earth. She's there every step of the way. They cut back to her. You're going to see her performing sympathetic magic. She has no idea what she's doing. She thinks she's a Christian, but she's more intrigued by the guy who looked like Jesus and is just doing what he's doing because she's got a love for him, right? They go, and the first place they go to this little village, and he's this medicine man. And everybody has to kiss him on the palm in their passing before they go in, and they go and take in some healing with him. And he does one of these interesting things where he burns an herb, and he gets that smoke in this cup, and he runs the cup over a spot on the guy's back, and everybody is kind of huddled around him, right? Now Pluto over here, he's positioned right next to the guy, and he's working barefoot, and his feet are dirty, and the smell makes him want to dry heave, and he won't compose himself. So he gets in an argument with the alchemist here, saying he doesn't want to do it. So he pulls some kung fu and folds him like a pretzel and tells him that this guy will put you back together and then you're going to fucking love the scent of his... Or it was this fucking just this badass, cruel tutelage of Pai Mei moment that I thought was great, right? Because it's good to see him no, you're fucking going to build some fucking character. You're going to do some fucking shadow work. I don't hear no fucking excuses. Fuck you. Right?
Totally.
And so then they go and they do after that this little drug ceremony. So I wanted to rush through here, though. We'll come back to this, right? So do you have any commentary on what's going on with this medicine man they meet along the way?
Well, the cupping is that's legit therapy. I love cupping. People still do it today, and something if you've never had if you can't get to somebody who does cupping, also skin rolling. Skin rolling is a fascinating form of therapy. It's at first it's agonizing, but after just a few minutes, you actually crave it, and you hope they never stop. It's a real intense skin pinch that they roll up your back, and it hurts like hell the first time, but then you just want more and more and more. So it's very correspondent to that lesson of the Pai Mei, the hard lesson of Pai Mei.
Yeah.
It's like developing a taste for pain. And then there's powerfully ayahuasca aspects going on in this circle, right? Because they've got the bowls almost like ready to puke in or to empty your bowels.
Yeah. There's some sort of not with this, so we go on and they're doing this here, and I there's a second drug scene, I'm pretty sure, and I think that one is more indicative of the ayahuasca.
Okay.
Treva says, I had cupping for the first time a week or so ago with acupuncture. It was amazing. I had severe knee pain after a race, and I left with no pain. Oh, that's tremendous. That's very cool. Copper tensor tools often can work the energies in certain way. Like, I was able to alleviate a small portion of my kidney stone pain using a copper tensor tool up to my kidney area, just skin application, right, and holding it there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So they all participate in this. They had to grab. They went and they gathered these bits themselves, and then after they went and they took that drug, they went for a run in the fields. And they're doing some sort of hunter-gatherer type of exercise for their personal development with this. Then they come to this interesting ritual that they do. They're at the ruins of some maybe Aztec pyramid or something like that. And I think this might be where we're taking the ayahuasca. And there's this white thing, I don't know if it's like an eyeball or something, and it's dipped in this red stuff that might be blood, and then each person kind of gets a marking on their stomach in that exact spot just to the right of the navel, and it gets marked with this white ball that looks like it might have come from an animal that was gutted. And so and this is why I think that this might have been ayahuasca. Granted, you're supposed to do ayahuasca in the dark, because I've done ayahuasca. You don't want to be in the light when you do ayahuasca. You will blind yourself because your eyes, they dilate. Your eyes are hypersensitive. You do this in the dark. You do this at night or in a very, very dark temple. But either way, the point is that whatever drug they're taking is got them, kind of heaved over a bit, and they're going through in what the Norse would understand as a seething process, right? They're going through save process, which is going to, activate things, and one of them does activate. He ends up seeing through the eyes of this dog. Actually, no, this is before he sees through the eyes of the dog. This other guy, he's getting his sensory awareness heightened, right? So he's hearing and catching in real time, like the motion of ants, and they're carrying this little yellow flower. So I thought the yellow flower was significant because the way the shot is framed, the vibrant color over the gray backdrop and the red ants. This is seeing through the dog's eyes. I think the Jupiter character ends up seeing through the dog's eyes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Jupiter has that 11-year orbit. He spends an even amount of time with each of the zodiac, and it's like he is a shepherd keeping all the animals in their pens. So that's very appropriate for Jupiter to see through the eyes of the animal. And can you go back to them in the field of the purple flowers? I just want to read a quick little excerpt that our buddy Kyle Denton from Tippecanoe Herbs, he was talking about, I think, this exact flower, and I'll be real quick on this.
Go ahead.
He says that this flower is called pieweed, P-Y-E, weed. And we were just talking about the Pi Mei hard lessons.
You're right. Yeah. That's
funny. So he was sent me some information on that flower that they're frolicking through, and I think it is the same flower. I'm looking at it. He says, this is an excerpt he sent. The truth is lost to the ages, but the name is of Native American origin. One enduring legend is that this plant was named for Joe Pye, a tribal herbalist who befriended New England settlers and shared his knowledge of herbal medicines with them. He became famous for using this weed to treat typhoid fever. And then Kyle says, this reminds me of a plant that is currently blooming, probably began blooming at that time, of Joe Pyeweed. If you're east of the Rockies, you may recognize growing in ditches and wetlands. Another common name is gravel root, right? So the next scene has ants crawling on gravel because of its great antillithic or stone-breaking quality. The name Joe Pye is something of a mystery lost to the memory hole of time. But yeah, then he and I got into a weave about The Princess Bride, where Wesley is taking that poison slowly, so he builds up his immunity to iocane powder. And so yeah, we got into a whole weave about that. But sure enough, now they're building up their resistance. They're gaining a tolerance against what is to come in their tests.
Yeah, precisely. Granted, a great deal of it is a breaking down, right? Like it's going through this breaking down process in a constructive manner, right? It's letting go of the old and getting a chance to really absorb the beauty of life that's going to come from these ceremonies and these rituals. Once you're on the other side of it, just by the merit of who you've been doing it with and where you're at, right?
Big time. Yeah.
This right here, I believe this was Venus. Venus is just like once again with the allusion to ayahuasca. This may be where he's been like vomiting up or something like that, and he had his hand like he's just, when you're just in that nausea. And you're just on the ground, because the nausea's really freaking defeated you, and so he's in a nausea while also having kind of like this serious trip. And then he feels around in the mud and he magically gets a hold of this little blue bird that was in the mud, and then he opens up his hand to let it go. Right, so it's very interesting that there's this there's a purpose of finding a beautiful thing. The blue is probably finding an emotional point that he was resisting in his life, and letting that spirit out, and be free, so he can be free, right?
Yep.
That's the best I can think of. There's probably a blue bird in tarot somewhere that I'm probably not thinking of. Then at the end of that ceremony, I thought that this was very cool, right? Like, this is another conceptual exercise in the selflessness that they're going through, right? Because they go through an exercise and they say, like, how many are you here? It says, like, there's 10. It's just like, there are? Let's count. And they count everybody but themselves. And then they count again, but the other person who counts everybody but themselves. And they're just like, where's the 10th man? Right? Right? It's this beautiful, like, exercise, right? Like, you see, like, people do this at corporate retreats, right? Believe it or not. Like, we've seen this kind of thing, right? And so, they all look in the bowl, right? And they're saying, the first one walks up there. I think it's the written woman is the first one that walks up to the bowl with water in it. So there's a reflection. And she looks, it's just like, oh, here he is. He drowned. And then everybody goes over to look. They see themselves, like they're self drowned in the ritual they did before.
Big time.
Right? And so then there's this band here, and they take a walk with the bowl. They dig a hole. They bury the water in the bowl. And it's not a funeral that we know. It's not funeral music that we know in America, but you can tell that they're playing funeral music. Like, this is a ritual burial of their I guess it's their individuality, maybe in a temporary way, or their false self. There's a self of everybody that is being destroyed in this process. This is what this represents, right?
I got a interesting weave to add to that.
Yeah.
In the book and also in the film, World War Z, which was amazingly prophetic. I can't recommend it enough. The book stands alone, but the movie fills in a great amount. Man, it's amazing. But there's a concept in that story where the Jewish elders have a policy called the 10th man policy. And that is that ever since the Holocaust, this policy has been a safety precaution. And that is that if the first 9 elders are unanimous on a topic, the 10th man is not allowed to even agree. Even if he wants to agree, he's not allowed to. He is compelled to be contradictory, and he has to act with all of his might and all of his power to disprove the 9 who came before him in their unanimity. So the 10th man rule is the designated contrarian who, even if he doesn't want to disagree, he's compelled to. And it's a hard burden and a hard responsibility. So I just see some of the chemistry of that equation fitting into this, that everybody's looking around saying, no, there's only 9 of us. And they all agree that the 10th man has drowned.
Right.
And so they're giving up that the right to protest or to go against the collective.
Yeah, I get it. That's interesting. It reminds me, I don't remember the numerology, but in the chorus of Iluvatar, it was not Sauron, but it was the original evil. What the hell was his name? Morgoth or something?
Okay.
It's the original evil lord. Like this is like, he's like the super devil who created discord. It was like the one dissenting musician in Iluvatar's orchestra that was singing the world into existence, right?
Wow.
And that lore is that lore is what I get at when I talk about the inversions in dark sorcery. That's the Discord. That's when you're on the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. That's when you're trapped in Loki's house of the net.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I showed this picture because, like I said, she keeps following them. She's doing sympathetic magic. She's doing what they do. She's imitating. And just like the monkey see, monkey do. Right?
Yep.
So that reinforces it. I thought it was very interesting that they're in these matching red outfits. And this red outfit has a little... I don't know what that figure is. Is that a man in a mask? Is that a fucking alien? Like, she's got this thing on her shirt. I can't make it out. Maybe if I zoom in, I want to say that's maybe a shaman with a table in front of him. I don't know. But anyway, she's doing sympathetic magic because she's kneeling like he's kneeling. She has no idea what they're going through or whatever, but she's committed to trying to understand.
Right.
Right?
Totally.
And it's a very interesting thing to say about women on the outside looking in at this kind of thing going on, especially if it's what the men are doing and what men are picking up from seeing her doing what she's doing. Right?
Yep.
So then we come to this scene, right? And I'm starting. This is where I start to really notice that there's only 9 people here. There's a 10th man out in this scene. There's 8 people participating in the ritual, and the alchemist is performing it. And I looked. The thief is not there. Or wait. It's the thief or the written woman. I'm pretty sure. I think it's the thief that's not there. Right? And it starts to kind of come together that there's a little bit of a different treatment occurring for the regular guys that is not privy to the new initiate. Right? So,
yeah.
They're going through a ritual where they are they're evoking their own personal griefs. They're drawing from within certain griefs and pains, and going through the process of allowing themselves to cry about it, to have a goddamn fucking emotional release. And then they have these bowls and they pour ashes on top of each other because they're also emotionally simulating going through death. Again, another ritualization of a death process. Right.
And they kind of look like not exactly, but it makes me think of being dressed in sackcloth as like a test of your tolerance to pain, and don't get addicted to pleasure.
Right. So like here we are again, and there's the 8 of them, and the ones that were grouped together are hugging each other, and then the whole team gets up on top of like I think this is the big pyramid. I forget which pyramid this is, like the Pyramid of the Sun or whatever, right?
Okay.
And they do like basically qigong on top of this pyramid. They do sun salutation and everything else. The hands are open up, and it's a really cool scene, right? Because they went through all that. And that got them to this level where they can stand on top of this pyramid because they've gained a depth of understanding something that gives them the right to be there in a sacred fashion.
I see a lot of indicators that hail back to the gallery in the when he was in the Master's Tower. And there were all those tarot cards on the wall.
Right.
I think we're seeing some of those elements coming to fruition now.
Well, right, because this pyramid was there and it had the numbers on the steps.
Yep.
Right?
Yep,
yeah,
totally.
Precisely. And it's 1973. They've cleaned this up since then. This place was still not 100% discovered yet. That's what's so kind of cool about this. It was really neat seeing it only half uncovered.
Yep. And Gurdjieff had a fascination with what he called the law of three and the law of seven. And so for them to launch this movie in 1973, they were right in stride with the mystic ways.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking to myself, I didn't have time to look up the chart for this film, which would have been its release date. But this right here is the only scene where you get a clear shot of almost everybody's staff, which is what clarified who everybody was. As you can see, the solar symbol on the alchemist's shirt, and you can see Mercury is over here on the written woman. That's hers, and then that's the crescent moon on the thief. It's not super clear. Just the pixelation here is a little off, but it's the crescent moon is there. And they're getting to the docks. This is the last leg of the journey before they actually hit the mountain itself. Here you can see his crescent moon a little bit better. Right. So,
and
go ahead.
They all have a purse. They have their sack, red sack, and that is part of Perseus's hero's journey, as he has to acquire all of these implements, one of which is the sacred purse. And there's only one in the constellations. There's only one sacred purse in all the heavens, and that is the Algol star. So yeah, I think that's very apropos that they're launching
so
on their journey.
Medusa's head, and so nobody gets stricken. Exactly.
Yep.
So here, while they're getting on the boat, the girl shows up. These small children followed, and the thief wants to do a kindness and turn some loaves of bread and some fish and turn it around in a Jesus-esque kind of like thing, because now he gets it about Jesus was probably also a magician, etc., etc. The alchemist shows up. I didn't really take any shot from the scene, because I don't think I did, because it didn't really matter too heck of much. But he puts his hand on his head or his shoulder or whatever, and he basically gives him a psychic vision. And he shows the hypothetical of, okay, here, there's enough bread now on the dock for everybody. And the kids tear each other apart despite the abundance. Right? They get into a fight and they start beating each other up viciously. So, that there's a context in which that is true, and I completely agree with that statement. I get it. Now, the other important thing is that the love interest is here, and she wants to get on the boat, and he doesn't realize how much she's been following. In fact, in a Lord of Ringsy kind of way, like this is like in Fellowship of the Ring, except she's not crazy or crazed, but she's like Gollum following the Fellowship.
Right.
Right? Yep. Isn't that wild? So, so he's like, no, you're not coming with me or whatever. Yeah, and this scene is so important because of how things turn out, because he gets on the ship, he doesn't interfere, he makes that determination. He doesn't have to say anything. Maybe it was the right move, maybe he wouldn't have cared. We don't know. That's not the way the scene played out. However, we do see that she freaking rents a dinghy and she freaking follows them in the dinghy. Her and her monkey making paddlings. So now they act a little bit. Now they're like a pseudo pirate kind of vibe, which I kind of dig, and they do this interesting magic with a starfish, right? So you've got the 5-pointed star going on. He's got it struck with this needle at the heart of the starfish, which is used to kind of center point it. And it's tied to the mast of the ship. Okay, we'll get to that. And I'm trying to remember. Shoot, I can't remember now off the top of my head what he was doing with the guys with this thing. It wasn't very much though.
Yeah.
But okay, so the blue and we got this white kind of, the white coral kind of colored starfish here. What do you got?
Yeah, I got something big on this. So, in the Hierophant card,
okay,
he has a baby in a star strapped to his chest, and there is a blue Isis character down below him. This is, you can think of this as Orion with the Eridanus River running down under his feet. But so the star is pinned to his chest, and the glyph on the Hierophant card is the word Vav, and it means nail. Okay, so this ceremoniously is signifying this Hierophant aspect, which is generally in Taurus. And then, I think that scene where the children are on the pier, and they're seeing them off before they get on the boat, I think that's fulfilling one of the tarot cards from the gallery again.
Yeah.
The gallery that looked like the adjustment card, or the adjustment Rider-Waite card. I think that was being fulfilled, and that card is also in Taurus.
Yeah.
So they're kind of double layering onto Taurus there.
Oh, and one more thing I almost forgot. I think this is also making me think. I think it's the Six of Swords has the woman in the boat with the swords crossing the river. So that it's like the 6 and the 7 of Swords in Rider-Waite. And
that's cool.
I'm pretty sure it's 6. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so this is card number 5, but in Hebrew the letter Vav is number 6. So there's kind of a +1 when you go into the Hebrew letters. So
Interesting.
And it's almost like we're going from 5, we're crossing the ocean to continue forward, and where you need another hand to keep counting. So we're kind of crossing the sea between the 5 and the number 6.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, that +1 for 6, that would be the mast of the ship that it's nailed to, wouldn't it?
Nice, yeah, buddy.
5 plus the thing it's attached to. That's what makes sense to me.
I dig it.
Now, next we go into a scene where the alchemist is now pinned. That the thief is still carrying an anchor on his soul, if you will. He's got his hands full with these platonic solids for some reason, to express that he wants to talk about how some thoughts have forms, and he points at the thief and he says there's a monster inside of you, and we're going to help you get it out. And so he didn't use the word egregore, but we're talking about egregores, right? So he's thought these thoughts have thought forms, egregores, right? And so he lays down to get worked on. He goes temple to temple, third eye to third eye, psychic connection, and then the crew kind of gathers in, right? And they pull out the egregore of the Gimp, and they pull that out. They pull it down out through his legs or whatever. Actually, shit, now that I'm thinking about it, even though it's not a woman like in the tarot card, like on the wall, remember I'm talking about how the Sephiroth's coming in at the top of the guy's head and then his penis is a fucking woman coming out of it or whatever?
They're totally fulfilling the wall.
Yeah, they're totally fulfilling the wall. Right. You do that with the Tree of Life, this works better, but with the real Tree of Life, I've talked about that. It's on the 369, not the 12578. Anyway, so they pull him out, and so here he is. It's not really him. It's his demon, not daemon, but demon, because it's not his genius. It's not his little helper spirit. It's his little hinderer spirit, right? Yep. So here he is doing like improv theater and pretending that he's holding on to him like the way he was holding on to him in the beginning of the film, because he's thinking about the man that he knew, caring about him as a person. He's a caring person, yada yada yada. We get it. He's the fool. We're supposed to identify with him in all this madness, and we're supposed to know that oh yeah, I've done the drinking party and been exploited like him. I've been the uncool guy before, yada yada yada, right? And so here he is. He gets convinced, like the guy say, dude, he can't swim, and it was just like stop lying to yourself. These are your illusions. Let go of your illusions, yada yada yada, right? And so.
I got a fascinating joke that I think this scene is enacting that joke.
Gotcha. So it shows him, by the way, he throws nothing overboard, but they do sound effect the splash of the body.
Right. So it's like he's hallucinating that he's throwing away the gimp.
Yes.
So in Taurus, if this is Orion, if this is the big hero, the most obvious anthropomorphic constellation there is, thereby signifying command over the realm of forms, because it's the most anthropomorphic of all the zodiac signs. Just off on his shoulder is the lame charioteer, the gimp, and that is Auriga, Hephaestus, Vulcan, Erichthonius, and that is this card here, is the lame charioteer. And it even corresponds to the color scheme of the boat. And so they're doing command of the realm of forms, and they're throwing a gimp overboard. Now, this is what I call chair at a bull cause. There's a charioteer at the bull that is Taurus. And so the charitable causes is what has drained the bank in our culture. And it's now everybody wants to be the victim. They want to be the one who's getting thrown overboard. And this is also global warming. Also, is all victim mentality. But
the charity that's drained the bank. This is exactly what Ayn Rand was talking about in Atlas Shrugged. She had a banking character talk about why he was joining John Galt's society after his bank was getting screwed over really bad business decisions that he had no fucking say over, because it's the way society changed, right?
You nailed it, man.
And he was explaining it from the point of view of how a proper within good business ethics and morality, operates in a way that you make your fucking money, but you're also doing your job, the faith and trust. You're providing that service that also elevates the other people that were your safe loan risks.
Totally. Altruism. He's literally enacting Atlas Shrugging. If this is Atlas, he's throwing over. Right. He's getting rid of his altruism. He's shrugging and getting rid of altruism.
Yeah. And I want people, if you didn't catch it with the first episode, you didn't watch the movie or whatever, and the movie doesn't tell you have to figure it out, right? The GIMP, he represents all of these things psychologically that we're talking about, but in the film, he specifically represents the Gospels. And I think it's the Gospels, not the Bible, because there's Hebrew representation with this film because of the manner of an alchemist that he is. Right?
So I'm going to tell
it's the Gospel.
Yep. So I'm going to tell that joke because it's perfect for the Ayn Rand and shrugging off altruism.
All right, let's hear it.
So guy's walking down the beach and he sees a lady laying out on the beach with no arms and no legs. And he comes up to her and he says, "Hey, you're having a nice day?" And she's like, "Yeah, but I really wish I could roll this blanket over onto me so I wouldn't be so sunburned." He's like, "Oh, let me help you with that." And he puts the blanket over her and she's like, "You're really generous. I've never been kissed before." And he's like, "Oh, well, I don't mind kissing you." And he leans over and gives her a kiss and she's like, gonna press her luck. She's like, "I'll probably go the rest of my life never getting fucked." And he's like, "Oh, I'm happy to help you with that." And so he picks her up and throws her in the water.
Great.
I think Jodorowsky knew that joke.
He must have. All right, so now we've reached the point where, okay, you've all done it. It's time to shave. All right, so now everybody gets to go and ritually shave. So the entire cast goes bald, including Jesus Guy, which is visually so interesting because, like, if you haven't been, like, really paying attention to the faces, even the two black gals, like you can, like, at the right camera angle, you're not sure if you're looking at a black person or a white person, let alone a black man or a black woman, right? Like, so, this is taking all these people that had all of their distinct attributes, and now they're all dressed the same, and now they're all groomed exactly the same, except the alchemist kept his mustache. Well, I don't know why he got to keep his mustache, but everyone else had a beard and had to fucking shave their beard. That's not fair.
It's so he can fulfill the Gurdjieffian look.
Right, Gurdjieff must be the Gurdjieff thing.
Gurdjieff's got, I think of him as a grand eggplant. He's nice and bald, but he's got this real pronounced mustache. And if you think of the shoulders of the top of the eggplant, he's really rocking the eggplant look.
Now you're making me think of Sonic the Hedgehog with Dr. Robotnik, whose nickname is Egghead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there.
So
real quick, if somebody left a comment in our last one about Kenneth Anger, and I can be very quick about this, but if we're at the moment, just like I was holding up this Aeon card, talking about Atlas Shrugged and throwing away altruism, I think that, and this is a much larger weave, but somebody mentioned the Kenneth Anger, and I think this is the time to do it. I'm working on a project. It's going to take me a while, and it's so much larger than we have time for. But essentially, I have corresponded a great amount of the Avatar and the Last Airbender to not any tarot deck, to very specifically the Thoth tarot deck. And if they're shaving their head, there is a very pronounced egg in this Aeon card.
Right.
And the egg is sometimes called the Kenneth. And so Kenneth Anger wants to be the result of the great works of Aleister Crowley. He wants to be the new Aeon. He wants to be the new child.
Good job throwing that Kenneth Anger in there. That's
buddy.
That's a shout out to somebody who was asking me directly about Kenneth Anger in I think it was the Phoenix Enigma chat. Shout out Phoenix Enigma.
Can you bring up the graphic I sent you in the telly?
Oh, just when I closed Telegram for some silly reason. Literally, like right when you said, "Could you pull up that thing from Telly?" I hit X on Telly just on. Don't know why. It was just a moment for me to hit X on Telly. Okay. Oh, yes. This one. That's right. I remember seeing this.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, let me grab this.
So this is a side weave per special request for one of our viewers who asked some questions about Kenneth Anger. And it very much will be expanded on my future project that will take a while because I'm going to really tiptoe through the tulips and be very cautious on this topic. Because while one person's angel is another person's demon. So I'm going to stay outside of sympathy or antipathy so that I can really see with clarity. It's the one with the Avatar, the Last Airbender. Yep. It should be the most recent picture I sent you.
It's up.
Okay, nice. So the Aang is absolutely the Aeon card. And he is essentially dressed up in all of the iconography of this very unique card. This is not in any other tarot deck. This is one of a kind. And so this is appeasing the thelemic wet dream. This is really fulfilling the thelemic wet dream. And Kenneth Anger has a very particular glyph that is on his book. The name of the book is that Phantoma. And if you look at the iconography of that work that is Kenneth Anger's brainchild, you will see that it is also correspondent to Aang from the Avatar series. And a fascinating thing, I have a picture here of Kenneth Anger when he was handsome and young, and then you can look at what he looks like today. He looks like he's been eating too many babies.
That's like how, that's not like from a film, that's just how he looks.
Oh yeah, he looks haggard. He
Wow.
looks haggard.
How old is he?
I don't know, but it's fascinating because Aang, the character, actually goes through a progression, and we get to see him get older and older. And there's a theory in the Avatar series that Aang, that he might have faked his death. They think that, and this is a fan fiction theory, that he faked his death and that he is secretly the bad guy that they're all fighting against at the end, who is actually going against all of his intentions of his altruistic nature late in life. And that is a fascinating thing that happens with many philosophers. They work really hard to make their case in their life. I'm thinking of Ludwig Wittgenstein. He worked very hard to make a really good case for a real good, powerful worldview. But then late in his life, he goes back and he tries to undo everything he did. And so I think that a lot of philosophers are like that, where they get to a certain kind of a turning point in their entire work, and they're like, oh shit, how can I undo my own error? And so they have to work against their own cause late in life. So with so many great minds, you have to be specific. Are you talking about early Wittgenstein, middle Wittgenstein, or late Wittgenstein? So yeah, I think that is also something that is played out in the Avatar series. So there's your special request.
Very cool. Yep, that was for Jules Adam from who's in the Phoenix Enigma Telegram. So that's from the Phoenix Enigma chat people. Very good. Hope they're listening. Thanks for tuning in. They may have only recently subbed, so I wouldn't expect them in the chat group. This is for people that have been here for a few weeks. PK did a little bit of astrology for us. The movie came out November 27th of 73, which was a Tuesday. The main thing that sticks out to me is the sun is conjunct Antares that day. Next day, sun moves to conjunct Neptune on the heel of Ophiuchus. Interesting. Interesting.
Ophiuchus is JFK Day, November 22nd, and then it goes to like the 27th. But it's a huge constellation. Its heel is only touching 5 days of the ecliptic plane, but the constellation at large is immense otherwise.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. So thank you, PK. All right, so now this is the whole scene where I was saying that it's kind of significant that they had that sea turtle situation, right?
Right.
Because this guy here, he shows up, he's on top of a sea turtle, right? So what's going on? This is the island of the Holy Mountain. Now, this is not some remote, nobody's ever heard of it, impossible to reach island or even base of the mountain. This guy is the effectively the carnival barker for the people that are going to be grifting here. It's going to be a grifting situation. You'll see, right? So he shows up on the turtle. Like, I don't know if this means he's the world card per se, but he's standing on top of a sea turtle. He's got a goblet in one hand and the bottle of wine that'll go in that goblet in the other. And he's dressed in green. He's got a feather in his absurd little cap with his absurd little, like, shorts and things. And he sounds like a really annoying prick, right? hey, welcome to the Holy Mountain, right? And so he's here to lure them into, here's the mountain. he's going to lure them away from the mountain. He wants them, and see, now they all look exactly alike. He wants them to basically sit here and think about the mountain. They do the thinker, and by the way, I double-checked. This is residue. This thinker is doing the pose the way I remember, with the chin in a fist at like this. That's, in my universe, that's the thinker. The thinker now has a hand like this. So here we see that Jodorowsky and whoever his continuity people were under the Mandela effect, which was a certain kind of spell, I believe now, more than it is a timeline anomaly. Although I'm not going to rule out timeline anomalies. So the Pantheon bar in yellow, blue, and red. Blue bottom of the letters, red top of the letters. Pantheon bar. So it's like I think the idea is ultimately, okay, you've made it technically to the holy mountain. So that makes you gods, right? You know, so they're a pantheon. They get people who teamed up to go after the immortals, all these different groups of 9 people, and they get them to join their fucking nonsense. So Jodorowsky has these people literally dancing on the graves of their ancestors in mockery of them, complete with an inaccurate Viking with a horned helmet. Which was about as much Norse paganism as you were going to get anywhere in the world in 1973. Because they worked real hard to keep the white man away from this shit. So anyway, it's all party music. They're all dancing and drinking and having a good time. And all these guys are some sort of fucking guru. They're having, like, they're feasting on a pig like pigs, ripping it apart to eat at it. I mean, they're having a good time, but I mean, like, and they're not necessarily doing anything violent per se, but it's like they're not eating like men, they're eating like animals.
And they're in a cemetery.
And they're in a cemetery, in the mausoleum section of the cemetery, right? Like, people buried in the ground, they're also buried, like, you know, this guy here, who I'm calling Frank Zappa, he looks like Frank Zappa. That's a mausoleum. There's people buried in there. It's probably a rich family buried in there. I got mausoleums at the Catholic cemetery in my hometown, right?
Yes.
Like, there's several of them. They're huge. They're Masonic connected often enough, right? And so these are a handful of the cast of characters that are here to kind of zero you in and give you a sense of who are these people. These are the fucking gurus that they get in their one fucking point, their one fucking lane, and then they fucking wax philosophical uselessly for the rest of their lives right there where they're at. Right? It's just like, imagine me having been doing YouTube for so many years, and I didn't change and evolve as a person. Right. So this guy is representing American philosophy, right? He's an Uncle Sam hat on, and he's doing his thing. It's just like American New Ager philosophy, like you know, the hippies fucking figuring out whatever the fuck they're figuring out. And he makes a fucking line. Here we got the flies again, like the fool when he had flies on his face, right? He talks about how his poetry attracts the bees like sweet honey, and then to his hand. And then somebody cursed him, like one of the gods cursed him, and flies manifested on his hands instead. And the written woman herself, it's like one of her only lines, one of her few lines in the picture, where she says just like, what does she say? I don't know. Your poetry may be sweet, but your magic attracts shit or something like, because it's shit and the flies are there because it's shit. What?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I got a huge weave. PK's gonna jizz. PK, you're gonna jizz, bro. Okay. Can you go back just for the people's visual memory to Zappa at the mausoleum?
Yeah. Okay. We're here. Yep.
All right. This is intense. This is super cool. And can you make me big just for a second? And people just take that picture of of Zappa, Frank Zappa at the mausoleum.
Hold on a sec.
This chariot card represents, it's number 7. But in my prime Enneagram system, which is much more advanced, we're on the double layer of presentational immediacy. Number 7 is the 4th prime number. And this is highly magical because of the relationship to the 4 and the 7. Everybody thinks of silver in 47, and we got the 47th president coming. That guy's got a presidential hat. The color scheme is correct. Look at the acolytes at his feet, the bald-headed acolytes down below. They're wearing the color blue. This chariot cards, all of them, have a cyborium. They have a sepulcher or a covering or the firmament up above with the word abracadabra, the magical words, magical language, magical philosophy, highfalutin speak. And PK, the Mosca constellation is number 77 on the IAU. And so he is buzzing people with words of desire to penetrate them, to crave more, to create a frenzy, a mania. Yeah, this is totally, it's not just number 7 from the old Enneagram. This is number 7 in the prime stations. Okay. And Zeta is the word for 7. And here is Frank Zappa, zapping everybody with the buzz of desire. Yeah, that
remember,
is powerful.
I'm just saying he looks like Frank Zappa. I checked. It's not.
Right, but I think I agree. But another thing about Frank Zappa, he's famously depicted on the toilet in one of his most famous posters. He's sitting on the toilet, much like the thinker just a second ago.
Right, but also the toilet is an art piece of with an absurd proportion to it, just like the scene with Uranus and his wife.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's okay. That's some good stuff right there. All right.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's we're tracking really effing well. We're not going to be much more than 3 hours. This is great. We're doing good.
Nice.
All right. Let me get this back here. All right. So then we get to this guy. Here's all right. This guy. This is Timothy Leary, basically, right? This woman right here has a plate of different varieties of LSD. He's taking LSD and fucking going off about like metaphysics and saying the burning bush was a trip and he's just fucking he's just high in his own fucking supply, right? It's just a high on his own like this kind of thing, right? And he's overdosing on these drugs, and he's a bit incoherent, and he's just playing with ideas, very similar to the Zappa guy, except he thinks he's where the other one's more social kind of thinking, and thinking that he's come up with the greater, superior philosophy. Him, it's just he thinks he's got this greater, superior experience of the all because of the way things perceived him in a drug trip. I can say a thing or two from my fucking trips about how reality kind of is gonna work, but it's it takes a lot more work than this, right? This is just a supplanting having anything like that, right? And so then this guy, this guy is he's a strong man, right? And what's kind of cool, his scene is interesting because he's bragging about how he can pass through solid matter, and then he does. And I'm like, okay, that's fucking kick-ass, right? And, like, that is impressive, right? Like, I think even the crew is technically impressed. And it's like, and they ask him, how long does it take you to get up the mountain with that power? And it's just like, no, I can go through the mountain, I can only go through it horizontally, right? So he can go through the mountain horizontally, like the Flash, like super fast, right? So he might be dimension hopping and bypassing going through it, but it's like going through it, right? Whatever it is, he's got some legitimate, like, monk power, right? But he's not going anywhere with it. He's not going to the mountain, right? He's not even conditioning it to be useful for getting him up the mountain, right? This reminds me of all the physical fitness gurus that have a lot of fucking really effective techniques in, for physical fitness, for martial arts, for all these different things that makes them seem like they're superhuman, but they never do anything beyond the average with it, with the exception of, like, maybe they go into athletic endeavors to get the glory for it. And that's kind of what he's doing here. It's like, look at me. Look how great you should think I am because I can pass through solid matter, right? Uselessly pass through solid matter and not achieve the mountain that I'm bragging about, right? So it's this false bragging rights that he has to enlightenment. Right? And so that's what makes him kind of neat, right? Like, this is like my dark side. Because I'm doing the physical fitness thing, I'm doing the spiritual monk thing, and I have to remember that I have to climb the mountain, which is why I climbed the mountain on Monday before I did show 1.
Yeah, that was badass. Pushing that mountain with those feet, buddy.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, her and the chimp are still following. Right, and so now she's ascending up the mountain with them. They left after him. Basically, they said, like, this place is whack, and then the guy, the first guy in the sea turtles, he's like yelling at them, he's like, you guys are a bunch of fools. We're about to take this place to the next level, and you're going to be amazing. And now we've already forgotten you, right? And like,
right.
Because like this is what happens when you become above a certain group of people, right? It's just like, it's like where you're so good at your craft that you can look at other people that just think they're good at their craft and realize how much they've limited themselves. Because that's the point. They went through a whole journey of destroying themselves to purify themselves of all of their attachments and various kinds of problems or whatever. They all went on an important journey to become healthier, stronger, better people, right? And so this is the reflection of that. This is like the last temptation, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And so then we're here. She's following them up the mountain.
I want to weave on the guy going through the wall real quick.
Okay.
He was foreshadowed in the galley with the we were talking about maybe that horse that was half of the horse was disappeared through some sort of portal, and only the tail end of the horse. I think that was foreshadowing this guy, the walking through wall guy, and
yeah, good possibility of that. Yeah.
Yep. So, fascinating echo through history is the person who invented Morse code. I forget his first name, John, Charles, some David Morris. But his story, it takes a mundane turn at a crucial moment, and that is that he heard that his wife was sick, and so he got on a train and he wanted to come home to see her before she died. And when he got home, she had already passed away. So he invented Morse code so that the collective, so that humanity could have telegram systems so they could communicate faster. And it's like he's making up for his regret that he lost her. but they're not telling us that he might have been developing a code so he could communicate to her through tapping as a mediumship to talk to the other side.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that
And
makes
so
sense.
when you're reading that story, it takes a mundane turn, but I think everybody should keep the supernatural potential in mind. Now, that story parallels Wim Hof. Wim Hof lost his wife and put himself through a bunch of extreme pressure to go and endure the cold. And to a fascinating degree, he was messing with or doing alchemy with the veil in what human potential can endure.
Right.
And then he makes it into something he can teach other people to do. And now they do testing on him that he can actually turn on the natural DMT in his pineal gland. And so he reminds me of this character who can walk through walls and see through the veil, through the other side, to reach higher potentials. But there's a fascinating aspect is that it's only horizontal. It's only to what is collateral to our reality. And they want to go beyond that. They want to go vertical. They're going for the higher levels. So yeah, that's what I was seeing in this character. And it's fascinating how much he corresponds to Wim Hof. And I should say this, Hollywood and a lot of executives who have done the DMT, they want the next new thing in the carnival ride. And so they've actually gone under Wim Hof. And a lot of those students who have mastered that technique, there's a long list of Jedi on that list. There's a long list of Jedi actors and registered Jedi. And in the UK, there are more registered Jedi than there are certain religious orders. I'll just leave it that way. That the Jedi thing is, it's much more real than Hollywood, Bollywood. There's some people taking it pretty damn serious.
Well, I hope the ones taking it serious are actually working with the Egyptian discipline instead of just playing with their fucking toys. Because that's going to be a very perverse form of this kind of magic, which is far more ancient than you can possibly imagine, and not just because of correlations of old words. So like I said, she's following. And then we actually get a little bit of actual mountain climbing. And so this is a very relatable scene for me. There's this scene for Mars, Isla, Elsa or whatever, Isla. And she wants to quit on the mountain. She's getting, she's losing it freaking like climbing up all this stuff, right? And when she's saying that, Axon, Neptune in particular, for whatever reason it says like, you're afraid of success. You have to fuck the mountain or something, like rub your clitoris on the mountain. He literally says that. And so this is her having a romantic relationship with a giant piece of rock.
Dude, it's so fascinating that this stuff makes sense on such a profound level. I will be quick, but she's having fear. That's the shadow of the number 6 personality type. Can you make me big just real quick?
Yep.
She really wants to clit. She wants to quit. And so she's instructed to find her clit and hump the mountain. This card has a great amount to do with Francois de la Rochefoucauld, who wrote prolifically about self-love. And sure enough, where do you find the perseverance not to clit? It's under the hood. The clit is under the hood. This card has a very fascinating hood with just a tiny little diamond peeking out from under the hood, very much like that mysterious clit that everybody says exists, and some people don't believe it really exists, but apparently it does. And the number 6 muse in the
Yeah.
the number 6 muse in the symposium is erato. Erato is all about eroticism. And so yeah, she didn't quit. Instead, she chose to clit.
Gotcha. And there's a fleshy pinkish purple color going on there too. That makes sense. And also, just as a side correlation to that, we brought that up when we did our Loki series because I came to the determination that that card is a good parallel to Mobius because his cloth is in the Mobius strip pattern.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to go on to this. So here, and so like I just want to explain like, and people that know my work, they know this, but like I can speak very personally to this because I like to do my bouldering at Breakneck Ridge, which is a good climb and definitely an advanced climb, thus the name of the fucking mountainside. It's not as hardcore as this very vertical ascent, you know, it's kind of a 45 degree to like maybe a 65 degree ascent, but not much more than that, but definitely you can easily get yourself killed if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You know, for me, it's a wrestling match, right? Like I look at that mountain is my Jotun, and it's a kind of a training partner. I go to that mountain with the mindset of let's have a good match today, right? And that's me running up there and seeing if I can find a more difficult way to do it this time than I did the last time. So I feel like I've accomplished a leap at a certain angle that I'm just like, oh man, my knees couldn't get up there before, but now I can, right? And I did have at least one little moment like that on Monday, but I wasn't documenting it. So at any rate, yeah, and so you know you're telling Mars to do this, and the ram for Aries is a mountain animal. You know, they're all about that. You know, Aries Capricorns, which is Saturn, and even though Cell doesn't have much of a scene in this scene, just to know that mountain climbing is a very favored trait amongst the active, outgoing Aries and Capricorn types. All right. Frostbite. One of the guys had to sacrifice several of his fingers, which may or may not have actually happened. It may have been in his mind. Not 100% sure, but it would seem that's the idea because it was like cut off your fingers or go back, right? There was a choice involved, and he said, I'm not going back. So he went for the hardcore move and had his fingers completely severed and lost. I can't remember which character did this to themselves. One of the younger ones. It was either I think it was either the Venus or the Uranus character. I think did it. Then just after that, this is kind of like. This is the last kind of like hardcore scene, right? He gets his hands on this fucking tiger for reasons, and everybody is chained to the tiger, and the alchemist now puts on basically a death cowl of some sort. He puts on a mask that veils the whole of his face and puts up his hood, and then he's leading them in this procession, and then everybody except for him, the thief, and the written woman. Those are the only ones that don't have a scene. Each other character goes through some crazy shit, seemingly in their mind during this walk. So this gets very, very interesting right here. Before we go into the straight breakdown of these horrors, these traumas that are going to be simulated upon them, what do you think is going on with the significance of the tiger, the hooded man, the chains, I mean, it's a death thing. I'd obviously imagine, but I don't know about tigers as psychopops. So you tell me what's going on.
Yeah. So on the Thoth deck Fool card, there is a Bengal tiger biting on his thigh, and this represents, on a subtle level, it represents the Fool card is much like Boötes is a poet, and Boötes is a poet. The poets have to get out of their own way. They have to evacuate themselves so the inspiration can come through them. But it's the great void, which is like it's the darkness. It's the nothing. It's the nihilistic nothingness that every poet has to deal with when you're dealing with real high energies. But right next to Boötes is a Felix constellation, which is generally depicted as a house cat, but also generally a Bengal house cat or even a calico cat.
Okay.
And I think the calico cats were signifying a particular culture through time. I forget who they were. I forget which culture has seeded the calico cat across through history across continents.
Okay.
But this is also integration. This is the integration.
I like that.
They're going through integration. So yeah, that's another one. And I'll just leave it at that. But I will tease that the Damar Hamlin ritual, when Damar Hamlin, he's wearing the buffalo, he's a buffalo, and he gets struck by a Bengal, and he falls on the 48th yard line, which I'm pretty sure signifies 228 is the 48th prime.
Okay.
Or no, 223. I think, which is the year that it happened. So it was the year delineated was 2023, but it's the yard line is the year delineated. And then one more thing. But he has a resurrection. He comes back in 3 days. He was wearing number 3. So yeah, the Damar Hamlin ritual was totally a Fool card ritual. But also myocarditis is the myocard deities. The Fool card is the O card. So myocarditis is the Fool card, the god of the Fool cards. So yeah, all of that was unpacked with the Damar Hamlin ritual.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Interesting.
Yeah, buddy.
Very interesting. All right. So this first scene here, they hit. I believe this is Mars. Mars is having this scene, and it kicks off. They got these horses stuck in a rut, stuck in the mud. Interesting that they're doing this horse thing. It's got nothing to do with Neptune. Oh, wait a minute. No. I'm sorry. This is Pluto. I think Pluto is no. This wasn't. Who the hell was this? I'm sorry. Now Jupiter. I'm sorry. It's Jupiter. And Jupiter does horse stuff. Sagittarius, the horse rider. Yeah. Okay, never mind. All right. So anyway, it starts. So they got all these horses stuck in a rut. Then he's on his knees as there's gold coin raining down from the heaven, and he's trying to gather it, but it's raining down hard, so it's assaulting him while he's trying to gather it. So it's this painful acquisition of wealth that he doesn't even have to work for, it seems, right? Okay, we'll get to that. Hold on, was that this scene? Okay, I don't think I left it out. I think there's 2 scenes with horses, or maybe it was with the cow. Because I could have sworn there was a scene where he's eating the horse, and maybe I left that out. Okay, we'll see. I have a feeling that maybe there's another slide. I'm getting things confused. So he's going through that. Neptune over here is basically, he's banging on the bongos with bones. They're like rib bones, which gets into some cancer type of territory if we're talking about the ribs. And while he's doing this drum beat, there's these bulldog, junkyard type dogs. These dogs are fighting each other. They're ripping each other apart. And he's just violently, like, rolling on the fucking drums here. And so, like, this is an inner rage situation that's coming out of him, right? So that's Neptune. And so over here, I've censored it. This is, I think this was Saturn. I think this was Cell. She starts visioning. She's watching the cows doing it, and she's getting something out of it. And so she lays down on the ground, and like this is like the tail of the cow, like flopping over her face or whatever. Like this is all sexual submission stuff. So she's got like there's 2 sexual repression scenes, right? Like I don't show too much because like this scene shows actual cow intercourse, and it's the way that it's cut, and it makes you unnerved, and it makes sense if you can understand the tension being demonstrated. And I'd imagine that there's a lot of this that might be more akin to a woman's psychology that would not be my exact forte, other than as a man to respect and honor that you've got some weird shit going on that you don't have to fucking tell nobody about. It's all right, sweetheart. It's fucking weird, and you're dealing with it.
I'll say this.
Yes.
I'll say this. One thing that I think women are more tuned into is scent. And they are so dialed on scent in a way that men are we don't understand it. So I'll kind of leave that mystery in the centaur of the Minotaur's maze, and you guys can Ariadne thread your way out of that all you want.
Yeah. I'm it's just like I've heard an interesting thing. I suppose as long as you're not completely stank, but I'm told that like the secret is that like if you don't put on deodorant, but you don't smell like bad or something like that. That kind of that light kind of smell from the armpit is actually, apparently I've heard that women actually like that instead of the deodorant, or at least modern deodorants. I don't know. I just don't use I like my Old Spice. Now Pluto, like I call this scene the Tree of Woe, right? Okay, so there's this tree. There's all these dead hens hanging from the tree. Is a woman in the tree, an old woman with a bloody sword, and then with a cut scene, you end up, you see he walks up to the tree naked, and then there's a cut scene, and you see him get emasculated, not just his testes. We're talking about all 3, and so he gets chopped. Like this is a nightmare vision he's having. This didn't actually happen to him, right? And then he gets hanged man type, Odin type, hanging from the tree upside down, with his thing cut off, and there's all these dead chickens here, right? And so like this, and he's Pluto with all this stuff, and the castration is interesting. I know that in Greek mythos, 1 or 2 of the Titan elder gods, like, I don't know, Kronos or something, gets castrated or whatnot. Before we move on, why don't you tell us, like, we went through several of these. If you want to go back and speak on any of these first couple of guys that we covered.
Yeah, well, I'll just mention this, the fella up in the tree castrated, like you said, the hangman aspect. Ophiuchus is depicted with a serpent between his legs, like he's going to snip the serpent. And he is correspondent to to Odin on the tree of Yggdrasil in that hanged man pose. But also, I think we're seeing a lot of Dionysian manias. The followers of Dionysus, they get caught up in a frenzy, They say that they're drinking the Kaikion. And I just love when these words are not as distant and exotic as they sound, because Kaikion sounds a lot like cocaine to me. And people do a lot of frenzying up when they get on the Kaikion cocaine, even still today. And all those white chickens, white feathers, is very much like overflow of cocaine, an abundance of some magical medicinal powder. So yeah, I think there's and Ophiuchus is signifies pharmakia. And so pharmakia specialists know Kaikion and cocaine very well. They know all those remedies to bring the frenzies up. So yeah, I think that's what we're going through.
Yeah, okay. All right. So this is Uranus. And remember how I was talking about with the dead hand and the touchy-feeliness? So here's Homeboy covered in tarantulas and screaming, completely unnerved about it. I am the kind of person that has had dreams of giant tarantulas coming at me or on me, as well as being dreams of being devoured by etheric spiders. It's very interesting stuff that can be experienced in that respect. I used to have more arachnophobia back in the day. I still have a little bit. I'm not that fancy on spiders. I don't like too many films with creepy spider scenes in them. It's not my favorite things, except for Lord of the Rings, because it's like one big cool boss fight spider. That's different, right? But when it's this kind of thing, it's just like, right? So, it's as horrible, thing is that it's horrible, honestly, this happening to him right here, this is Joe Rogan's challenge thing. This is not that big of a fucking deal, but, it's a big deal for him because, of who he is, right? And so I think it has something to do with the idea of the Uranic kind of, there's a static kind of energy that's coming off of it, and something of that hypersensitivity, right?
Big time.
So anyway, let's get off this naked man. So I was this bold. Axon. No, this isn't Axon. This is Venus. Venus gets to have relations with a straight up hermaphrodite. This is a literal man-woman. He's got junk.
Oh.
He's got junk. He's got
I blacked
tits.
this part out of my memory. I forgot about this.
He's got hips. Oh yes. Half of his face is feminine, half of his face is masculine. He's got kind of like a half-shaved beard situation on, and he just he walks up to that cloth that's behind him, and he uncovers her. G, I suppose, is appropriate for an actual legit hermaphrodite, right? And so, and then then G stands up, and he gets on his knees and nurses off of Zer's. This is the one time these pronouns are highly appropriate. Zer's stuff, right? So that see, I found one place where your words are allowed. and then it cuts to this thing where he's dousing him, they turn into leopards, and just douses him in the face with it. It's psychotic. It's this very psychotic thing. So okay, we'll put ourselves on this frame so we don't have to stare at it any longer than necessary. Guys, it was important to watch it in the movie. It was important for you to see it. Anyway, what do you got to say, or are you not man enough to say anything about that and you want to move on because you got your own personal demons to work on? Have I broken the slick?
Not yet. All
right, let's do it. Let's talk about the man lady.
Yeah, man, we're in the perseverance phase. This is the perseverance phase. Engage the no antipathy, no sympathy. So if you can make me big real quick, the
Right.
tarantula scene, his body posture is exactly the adjustment card from the Thoth deck,
Alright.
which I've equated this to. Friedrich Nietzsche has a term called moral tarantulas. And it's actually a few fellas. I think John Locke is in there, but also Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was one of the prime moral tarantulas. And his opening line is, "Man is born free, yet everywhere he goes, he is enchained. And those who would presume to be the masters of others are in fact more the slave themselves." And that opening line to his book is so very true.
Right.
But if you
right.
take the adjustment card and you put it up against the face of a tarantula, you will see that this is anatomically highly correspondent to the tarantula. And if you look at the shape of the posture of that man, where he's laying with his hands exactly like that, with his legs together, covered in tarantulas, he's embodying some of the deepest secrets of this card right here. But
Yeah,
today's
yeah.
moral tarantulas are the social justice warriors, and they are crawling all over everybody.
Right, right. And what's the theme for this particular Uranus character? Genocide. Well, they kind of genocide for all of them, but he's the logistics guy of the genocide.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it is a trip and a half. So yeah, they're totally bringing out some of the real powerful truths of this card and this deck.
Yeah.
And then the other picture where the guy has the crazy mountain or bobcats. He has bobcat titties shooting milk out of his hermaphroditic tatas. That is the Lynx constellation, and fascinatingly enough, the Lynx constellation is highly correspondent to Artemis. And there's a really convoluted reason for me to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I won't unpack that too much. I'll say this: the public-facing Navaratri rituals are on the axial alignment of the fall and the spring. But there's a hidden, secret Navaratri, and it's literally called the Maghagupta Navaratri, which means hidden. And Artemis is the master of disguises. She loves to stay obscure. And so she is on the summer and the winter axial alignment. So think of Apollo as the public-facing Navaratri, and his sister Artemis, his twin, she is the other hidden Navaratri that I've recently discovered, and that gives her correspondence to a lot of people think of, oh, she's a cat, so she's the Leo, and I'm like, no. Oh, is she a Leo minor? No. Is she the Felix? No. She is the Lynx constellation, and so that's what I see here with the mountain cats shooting milk out of the tatas in the hardest, most sublimated aspect. It's very hard to look at. So yeah, that's what I see.
All right. Excellent. So now we reach this point. We're almost done. We're almost done. We might
almost
be able,
there, folks. Hang in there.
10, maybe 15 minutes, maybe. Okay.
Yep.
This scene is fascinating. So this is the thief and the alchemist. This is where the thief's purpose starts to manifest. He tells the whole group that that the thief is going to take him over this way, and he's going to cut off his head. Right? So they think that he's gonna get ritually killed.
Oh wait, hold on. One detail that comes up in a minute, but he tells the rest of the group, up there on the mountain is the white robed great masters, and if you have to wait here and meditate for 3 hours and then go and attack them, and then he pulls the thief aside and does this.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I was going to go back and mention that he made them wait, right?
Yep.
And so like that 3-hour period was so he could do his little setup. We'll get to that.
Yep.
So So the thief thinks that he's gonna freaking decapitate the guy for real, and he's gonna fulfill his master's wishes, and so he pulls out this giant, like, it's like a gold or silver saber, which, like, there's a whole lot to say about this scimitar type device being used, for this. And then with whatever sleight of hand ability that the alchemist has, when the thief brings down the axe, a lamb is produced by the alchemist to take the hit instead. And I see this as almost like like the way things should have gone for Abram on top of the mountain, where that's the way it should have been, where if there wasn't a worthy sacrifice, the son sacrifices the father, and the father does it as a known willing sacrifice and makes his son do it to be a man, right? That kind of scene. That's what you're seeing here, as opposed to what most Christian and some Jewish critics would say as a problem with aspects of Abrahamism, because that scene is the root quintessential moment of Abram's life, right? There isn't the Abrahamic disciplines without this alleged character making this committed act that then got turned into, yes, a lamb sacrifice, but it was all about murdering the son, which doesn't make any fucking sense in literalism. So anyway, that's what happens here.
Can you pull up the one I just sent you on Telegram? Because
sure.
that big ass sword is telling me a great many things.
Well, okay, yeah. Oh, right. We can all talk about that. You wanted to go this way, all right? We'll go this way. Which, this is gonna yeah, buddy. Alrighty. 'Cause, I mean, this is already baked into the other imageries of this fucking film in the first place.
Totally.
Let's see here. All right, let me grab.
So one thing, I'm so glad we're doing this project, because so many mysteries of my life have just been kind of, you look at art and you're like, oh, it is what you think it is, and whatever you project onto the art, then that's sufficient. But then you go back to 1973, before I was even born, and you find this cornerstone of the Holy Mountain. And now I have to look at the art that I thought was just free association, and I'm realizing these artists are nodding to each other in really pronounced locations. This is the mural on Denver International Airport. And you will notice that saber, I want to be specific. This is what a saber looks like. And all of the lightsabers in the Star Wars, you were lying to yourself to call them a saber. They were putting lies in your mouth, because a saber is specifically this shape. And it has to do with Cybele. It has to do with the Kybelian cults and castration, but also sacrifice with very sacred implements that are in the shape of Greater Israel. Greater Israel is prophesized to fulfill this shape exactly. And so the fascinating thing going on right now is this great sacrificing. And, they presaged all the conflagration with the Gaza by putting masks on our children, so that they go walking around with their heads gone. There's a whole segment of their head is missing for 2 years.
Right.
And so then when they put it in the news that they're decapitating children, well, it really fulfills the visual horror that we live through here.
Right.
And so it really comes close to home in a fascinating presaging of this apocalyptic Armageddon
Right.
bullshit.
Right. I mean, like you're looking at the classic Star Wars meme trope of Darth Vader slaughtering the younglings.
Exactly, and that is what is happening with the knifing sprees right now in Australia in particular, but it also happened in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
There's a spree of children getting killed by knives, and that was absolutely. I want to bring up one more graphic.
Yeah. So, I just want to remind people also that, like, the motif of people in particular, because you can tell with the children, these are South American, Central American children in this motif. Like, because this is Denver, right? And so this stormtrooper looks like the stormtroopers in the beginning of this movie that we covered, right? So, thank you for bringing this up, because it's a very obvious correlation. It's just that, like, you only have so much time to run all the correlations together, which is why the big brains got to work together. All right,
buddy. If you bring up that last one, I'll close this weave off real strong.
All right.
So something I learned about the word porcupine is that it implies hair-raising experiences. The word for your response, having your hairs rise up, is rooted in the word porcupine, which Medusa is an echidna, and the echidna is the phylum, genus, species of reptiles and humans genetically coming together. But they're only found in Australia. They're predominantly they are an Australian animal. And down in Australia, in Perth, Australia, was the first black swan ever discovered. And so Black Swan event even has its roots down in Australia, and Black Swan is a paradigm-shattering fragility. The Black Swan equals fragility. And so this is a graphic of Nietzschean Skywalker at his moment where he snaps, where he loses his soul. Nietzschean Skywalker. And this is the nihilistic moment for everybody to go through this test and to not stare too close at the abyss. And if you really know Nietzsche, then you know where the guardrails are. You won't fall into the abyss.
This is also Anunnakian.
Yeah, buddy, you got it. Anakin and Anunnakian. Yep. But then one thing that is fascinating is that in the scene where he slaughters the younglings, the child who speaks to him has a specific accent, and I think it's even regionally impeccable to the neighborhood where those kids were slaughtered. I think that kid's accent is exactly the accent of the neighborhood where that was launched in the news. Well, remember,
I
the
believe
UK,
he was a high British. Wasn't he a high British accent?
I don't know, but it was so
it reminded
intentional.
It reminded me of, like, Oliver Twist, like, please sir, could I have some more? It was the same kind of accent.
Yes, and Oliver Twist, the final scene, I was the actor in that play as a child, and in the final scene, they're shooting somebody off the roof, just like the Trump event recently.
Oh.
And so aspects of shooting off the roof is embedded into that childhood play. So yeah, this has a great amount of consistency, but they're raising our hackles by triggering Australia and that accent in general, the English accent.
Yeah, okay.
All right, power weaves, man. I'm glad we got that out.
So after he only goes through the mock sacrifice, he tells him that he's sending him off, that this is the end of the journey for him. He doesn't need to, like, basically go where the others are going. And this is the lover's card right here, right? With the alchemist being the angel between them, right? So here's the lover's card, because now he's telling, like, dude, this bitch came to the ends of the earth just because she loves you. You two, you get it on, and you get it on in your tower. He gives him his tower.
Oh, right.
Right? Like, this is what he tells, like, he doesn't just send him off. he sends him off to sit in his place. Which is a fascinating dynamic in correspondence to the ideas of what happens as a question. Like, we'll get to that as we see how they choose to pan out the rest of this. So the lover's card, the chimp is there at their feet, and it's just the chimp is the chimp, and I'm sure there's some occult significance that somebody knows that'll be like, oh, of course. So they get to the scene where they raid it, and then the head of the table is the alchemist himself in disguise, and it's kind of an understand as a joke because they get it that he could be testing them. It's kind of a thing. And so he's doing the moose ears, like, I played, childish prank stuff, right? He's being fun and cute in that way. But also doing this is kind of a microcosm of doing this.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
And that was those in the picture on the wall, those arms I think were coming out of the head.
Yeah, the arms were coming out of the head, and it's some sort of, I know I've seen that motif in Egyptian mysticism.
Yeah, buddy. Right. Totally fulfilling what was foreshadowed.
Yeah. So he has the remaining 8 people in his crew sit down in their places on the Enneagram table. We'll get to their placement in a second when they do the camera, because this, like, he goes through, you know what I should have done? Shit. You know what? That's what I should have done. Actually, shoot, I could do it. I'm going to do it. All right. I'm going to run the audio, just the audio. I want to run his speech.
Yes.
I want to run his speech at the end. So hold on a second, folks. We're gonna play the audio clip.
Yeah. I want to remind everybody, like, this is it's very powerful to have this retroflexion to gain context of culture at large from before we were even here. And so it's just adding so much context to what's happening now that it has a vast amount of momentum that is just smacking me in the face, because that would be 50 years ago, coming on 51 years ago, which I'm pretty sure, no, that's not a prime. But yeah, that was about 51 years ago that this was made. Is that right?
Maybe 73, and it's 2024. All right, let me see. I am going to... Ooh, one moment. I got to get over here, and...
41. No.
How do I do this? Okay, that's right. Because I want to make sure you can hear it, so I have to...
49.
I have to share.
That's 7 times 7. That's a crucial number. That's the magical square of Venus.
All right. Okay.
Can somebody do the math in the chat and let us know how many years ago that was, please?
All right, and then let me just turn this on. Or no. Okay, actually that should work. All right, let me see if if this works properly and if I'm in the right spot. Shoot, where's the player? Right here? Right here.
I promised you the great secret.
All right, did you hear that at all?
I can hear it.
Okay, good.
And I will not disappoint you.
Oh, sorry. All right.
Is this the end of our adventure? Nothing has an end. We came in search of the secret of immortality, to be like gods. And here we are, mortals, more human than ever. If we have not obtained immortality, at least we have obtained reality. We began in a fairy tale, and we came to life. But is this life reality? No. It is a film.
Let me pause right there for a second. He just said, the last words he said, "Is this life reality?" He goes, "No. This is a film." And he makes eye contact with the camera filming him. And this scene that I am showing you while he's speaking, he's breaking the fourth wall. He's about to say, "Zoom back camera." That guy in the background is a member of the film crew as the camera's beginning to pan out as these guys are about to end the movie by breaking the illusion. And so he continues to speak as the camera pans out here. I want you to hear it. Because he goes, "Zoom back camera," and he pushes with it. And it's like a magician, like, he's, you're telling the cameraman to do a thing, but a wizard is also going to freaking use that as a mudra to move energy.
Yeah,
right?
buddy.
This is him explaining how it works.
And it's also Neo when he stops the bullets.
Yes.
And he uses the N word. He puts the 5 fingers.
Right.
N is the 14th letter. Mm-hmm. Total to 5. 4 of these and 1 of those. The 14th letter. And he stops the bullets when he has his apotheosis moment. And he's also breaking the fourth wall for the first time, maybe not the first time ever, but for the most significant time in film cinematic history.
Indeed.
And go ahead and play it because I'll pontificate. Yeah. I'll pontificate after.
Absolutely. And I've moved to the frame. This is the frame when they've panned out far enough that you can get a look and see how everyone's seated, because this seating arrangement is an important Enneagram tell, and I want you to talk about the planetary alignments as he has laid them out on this Knight of the Round table. Here's the rest of the speech that happens as the camera is panning back to show you the whole crew.
Zoom back camera. We are images, dreams, photographs. We must not stay here, prisoners. We shall break the illusion. This is Maya.
They all together flip the table. They turn the table over of the immortals.
Holy mountain. Real life awaits us.
Boom shakalaka.
Yep. Real life waits us, and then they start walking away, walking towards the mountain, fade to white, roll credits, and that's the film.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Friedrich Nietzsche has a famous quote, I think it's at the end of one of his books, and I can never say it exactly right, but he says something along the lines of, "I hope someday to only become a yes-sayer, and my only negation shall be turning away." And that's how he leaves off one of his famous lines in the book. And sure enough, that's what they all do together. And a great many characters in the Lady Frida Harris's deck, they also have their face turned away, and that's called Rückenfigure. In art, a Rückenfigure has their back turned on you, and that's to draw you in, to sympathetically harmonize with them, so you're seeing through their eyes. And when I say draw you in, I mean it in all of its metaphorical context.
All right.
Yes. Also, I think I offer to everybody a famous Sufi text called Attar's Conference of the Birds. And it's a poem written by a great Sufi poet, and I think this was an homage to Attar. And that's an adventure for people to go on their own. But also, like you said, Zerilath, there was a line in there where he says, "We cannot stay here."
Yeah, no, there's a tremendous amount, because it's like it's the commentary of the Pantheon Bar, because the guys at the Pantheon Bar, they want to stay in that moment, right? there will be like he's made this film, right? And people are gonna say, Jodorowsky, when are you gonna make the next Holy Mountain? And it's just like, I'm not. I've conquered the Holy Mountain. I'm gonna make something completely different now.
Yeah, man,
right?
Big time.
Yeah.
And another thing that is really fascinating psychologically, that some people may not have come across in their adventures, is the maxim that I grew up on, but things are different now. But when I grew up, it was lies in the news and truth in your fiction. And part of differentiating the lies in your news and the truth in your fiction was, strangely enough, the news is looking directly at you, head on. But in your fiction, it is a tradition not to break the fourth wall, right, and to always be looking into the scenery very more interactively, so that, strangely enough, you get acclimated to being lied at when somebody's looking you head on, and then when the truth is actually being conveyed in the fiction is when people aren't really looking at you. But strangely enough, in this decade, the fourth wall has been systematically collapsed.
Oh, yeah. I
mean, so you can look to Deadpool for that?
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine was something else. It was the most on-the-nose, like, merger of organic storytelling and apologizing for corporate fuckery that you could ever fucking ask for. It was one of the most honest films on the corporate level.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also She-Hulk was playing around with that dynamic as well.
They were
proactively.
I heard the actress was butthurt because She-Hulk got her like she was never put in the film and they were supposed to put her in it or something.
Yes, there's a lot of
skank ass.
Yeah. There's a lot of fascinating kind of a blending of reality and fiction to all of these dynamics. But I want to also correspondent to the Smit-Mundt Remodernization Act of 2012.
Okay.
They started writing it in 2011. Then it got passed as they break through that the new year. It gets passed in 2012, but this was breaking the fourth wall. And also, a lot of people say, oh, the Mayan calendar came and went and nothing happened. Guess what? Smit-Mundt Remodernization Act, that happened. And when they say Smit-Mundt, that is a Smit is like a blacksmith, but it's also Vulcan is the official blacksmith, but they're actually smithing the mouth. This is a crafty mouth, remodernizing. And so it was right after the Hiroshima event that the Smit-Modernization Act came into place, that you cannot lie domestically. You can lie all you want internationally, but not domestically. And that was allowing expansionism. If you think of lies as guns pointed outward internationally, they went and they conquered everybody. There's nobody else to conquer anymore. Well, now they're going to turn the lies, like weapons, in on the motherland and start marching back to the center. And that's what happened in 2012, fulfilling that Mayan prophecy in a major way, psychologically and spiritually.
I see. Okay. So let's handle the very last piece, because we've actually gone a little bit. We've still gone longer. We're almost 4 hours now.
Oh goodness.
Let's nail this Enneagram layout of the planets and call it a night.
Right on. Well, one thing they said is we cannot stay here.
Right.
And that, to me, I haven't really nerded out on it thoroughly, but to a large degree, I think that they're telling you, I think that Jodorowsky does belong in the 9th position. Pluto and Plato, the realm of forms, the one who, and Urania is the muse of geometry. So I think he does belong in the 9th spot. But I think they are really telling us that the rest of them are in fact scrambled, and I think it's an invitation for you to get familiar with the natures of those planets and to find where they really do belong. And I can run you through it verbally because I can already tell they're not where they should be. Number one, Mars. I'll just use this one. Number one should be Mars. This is a perfectionist or a reformer with the shadow of wrath and a remedial virtue of patience or wisdom. And Mars is not sitting, is she? Is that Mars at the number one spot?
In the number one spot?
Yeah, just to Jodorowsky's left hand, or for us it's to the right.
From the left hand? Wait. No. Actually, you know what? Oh no, that's Saturn. That's his wife.
Okay, yes. So, well, you know what might be happening is there could be a flip. I have seen indicators in culture where they're actually doing it counterclockwise, but they're still in order.
Yeah.
So Saturn is the number 8 position over here.
Okay.
So we got Mars is number 1, perfectionist reformer with the shadow of wrath. So who's the character on the other side of his wife?
Okay.
Is that Mars?
Okay.
Because Saturn is a number 8, which is a controller with the shadow of domineering or lust.
Okay.
Remedial virtue of sympathy.
Let me shrink us again because I'm blowing up the picture to try and get close enough in to get a handle on all these faces and let you get a handle on it too, right? So there's Jodorowsky, that's Cell, that's Neptune right there, right? Like so Saturn, Neptune, I think that's Mercury. I think that's the written woman. That's Uranus right there. That one is I think he's Pluto, because I think that's Jupiter. Pluto, Mars, I think is her right there, and then Venus, and then Pluto, and that should be everybody.
Okay. Venus is in the right spot.
Okay. All right.
But otherwise, I think the rest of them are relatively scrambled. Who is that one? That lady on the lady on the bottom left.
The lady on the over here.
On our left, over all the way to the left.
Yeah. That's that I believe is Mars. I believe
that's Mars.
I believe that's Elsa. Yeah.
Okay, so that to me that tells me that it's not just as simple as flipping the Enneagram 180 or inverting stage right and stage left.
Right.
I think there is a pretty solid scramble in the mix. Venus is in the right spot. So here, I'll just run people through. We should go. Mars is number 1, perfectionist reformer with shadow of wrath, remedial virtue of wisdom. Number 2 should be the planetary aspect of. Oh no! Give me a second. The moon. Number 2 should be the moon. Is a giver with the shadow of pride and a remedial virtue of magnanimity. And then number 3 should be Neptune. Is an achiever with the shadow of deceit and a remedial virtue of honesty or candor. There's also a lot of vanity to Neptune.
Right. This throws it through a loop because, of course, the moon has been cast out in this, but it's a 9 system, right? So who's cast out in there? Who's not in it?
Right. Yes. It is a hot scramble. Yep.
No. But I mean, like in your system, what planet is not there? Because if the moon is there, that means that there's a planet.
It's Jodorowsky is the extra because Pluto should be in the top.
Oh,
and so
the sun. So the sun shouldn't be in the Enneagram.
No, the sun is not in the Enneagram. I think of the sun. If the Enneagram is Plato's cave, and then the sun is the light source in the middle or the tunnel out.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say then the sun must kind of be the holisticness of the Enneagram.
You got it. Yeah,
that makes sense.
It also has a strong relationship to the number 6.
Gotcha.
A lot of people would very reflexively want to put the sun in number 6 because 6 by 6 magical square of the sun.
Sure.
But that's Uranus in my read of it. Uranus gets number 6.
Gotcha.
So yeah, Venus is number 4, is individual with a shadow of envy and a remedial virtue of kindness. And then number 5 is Mercury with a shadow of greed and a remedial virtue of temperance. And then number 6 is the loyalist with a shadow of fear, remedial virtue of valor or courage. Number 7 is the enthusiast with the shadow of glutton and a remedial virtue of abstinence, which is different than temperance. Abstinence is none at all.
Yeah, right.
Number 8 is a controller, shadow of domineering or lust, and the remedial virtue of sympathy. And then number 9 is sloth, with the remedial virtue of sloth or peacekeeper or balanced one, with the remedial virtue of diligence or perseverance. So yeah, those are that's a nice run through on the Enneagram of how it should be if we were to rearrange those characters to make things right again.
Okay, gotcha. So, which 3 are in the triangle then? Because that's Pluto. You said is the 9, right? So Pluto is at the top of the triangle, and then who's the 2 at the bottom of the triangle?
Uranus is in the number 6 position.
Okay.
And loyalists have the biggest blind spot in the world, and that is that they think there's only one answer to everything.
Right.
They're too linear, so that gives them the biggest blind spot there is. And then the number 3 is Neptune, the achiever with a shadow of deceit and a lot of vanity.
So the triangle is the 3 outer planets.
Yeah,
Okay.
and guess what? Those 3 outer planets are right next to each other on the periodic table.
Okay.
Or uranium is 92, Neptunium is 93, and plutonium is 94. They make 3 blocks, one after the other on the periodic table, and right above that trine is promethium, number 61, which is the 18th prime number. It's amazing how synchromistic the periodic table really is, and it also comports to some of the mysteries here.
Yeah, it does. I didn't use the frame, but in the original, in the presentation where they pull out the Rosicrucian manuscript, he makes a point about alchemical equations and how modern chemistry's periodic table has been very helpful in his alchemy, and then he flashes up the periodic table. So yeah, that's amazing. Cool. Wow. Okay, it is 12 o'clock. We pulled 4 hours to get this done, but I think it was well worth it. Woo! Yeah, seriously. Destruction Art Studios popped in. How's it going, my man? I think, is he the one that does the work? I think he's the one that does the work. Correct me if I'm wrong, but shout out to Joe Phipps at Library of the Untold, and I think he's the guy who works with Joe doing the audio production, or no, the video production. I think he already said good night, so he's probably not there to respond. I'll have to double check. Because I could be confusing him with somebody else, but there, Joe gets a free shout out. But anyway, yeah, that I think is going to do it for us. Your information for your channel is shared in the description below, Slick. But if there's any more parting words you'd like to throw at us before I call this one a night and figure out what my next adventure on this channel will be.
Yeah, buddy. Yes, this has been just absolutely epic for me. Thank you so much. It was a gift to go on this adventure with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad I could show you this Enneagram movie. I couldn't believe you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, man. And it really validates a lot of my instincts, that I would even put the tarot cards in with the Enneagram, and sure enough, years before I was born, people were giving us the signal that that's the way of things. So yeah, I appreciate all of that validation that you've given me with this project, and thank you everybody for staying up with 4 hours on this weave. This is diligence, perseverance. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah, it's too much fun too. This is what doing YouTube's all about, you know.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Big respect, Z.
All right, gonna hit the closing screen. Give me a minute. Peace out, my friends.
Much love, y'all.